which will evolve from a passive observer into an empowered enforcer of national interest. SEGA will act as a command center and be equipped with executive authority to 1. Negotiate and enforce performance contracts with heads of entities. 2. Conduct regular in-depth assessment of SOE finances, ensuring transparency and exposing mismanagement. 3. Issue binding directives, implement compliance mechanisms, and intervene directly in underperforming entities. 4. Commission independent audits to identify inefficiencies and financial leakages. And 5. Set and monitor performance metrics with tangible consequences for non-performance. Loss-making SOEs will no longer be tolerated. They will be swiftly reformed, they will be merged, privatized, or shut down. Corruption, procurement fraud, and financial mismanagement will be prosecuted strictly, and boards that rubber stamp poor decisions will be replaced. The practice also of, in a few cases, using entity resources and funds to indemnify board members from accountability must cease immediately. SOEs must deliver strategic value, particularly in energy, transport, manufacturing, agriculture, and finance, to support Ghana's industrialization and the 24-hour economy initiative. Public, when children learning about the Akosombo Dam, we heard about Impregilo, the Italian engineering company that built the dam, and in later years when our second dam was built, the Pong Dam, we heard about Sadelmi and all of them, and so we're all quite familiar with Italian engineering and technology, and we think that it's an area where we can continue to exchange knowledge and technical know-how. I'm particularly happy about the initiative in agriculture because that is one of the main focuses of this administration. We think that one of the first things any responsible government must do must be able to provide food security for its people. We've had inflation go up to 54%. It is now dropping gradually at 22%, and we're hoping that it will come down further. But one of the main drivers of our inflation has been supply of food inflation. And so if we're able to expand on production, not only producing the food, but also processing and marketing, we need to look at the whole value chain. And that's why this initiative you're talking about is very important, because if we can get the technology and partner Italy and Ghana to produce food from the farm right to processing to the market, I think that that is the focus our government is aiming at. And so demanding responsibilities in these ministries require additional support to ensure swift and effective implementation of the programs and policies that we have set ourselves. Ministries that can function effectively without deputy ministers have not been assigned any deputy minister, reaffirming our commitment to a lean and efficient government. The swearing in of this batch of 13 deputy ministers and 1 minister of state brings us closer to achieving the full complement of ministers. This week I'll submit a final list of 4 deputy ministers to achieve the full complement of 60 ministers that we promised. We've also achieved the earliest approval of ministers by Parliament under the Fourth Republic, enabling them to get to work to roll out our commitment to the people of Ghana. The full extent of our commitment to fulfilling our promises to the people have not only manifested in the way that we have curated the leanest government under the Fourth Republic, but we've also demonstrated same in the policies that we are pursuing. Only yesterday, the first budget statement and economic policy of this government was presented on my behalf by the Minister of Finance to Parliament. The budget has outlined specific interventions across all sectors, as contained in our 2024 manifesto, aimed at revitalizing the economy and reducing hardship. These policies are also aimed...
Well, since President Mahama assumed the position of President of the Republic of Ghana, and he started forming his government, and started keeping faith with the people of Ghana and fulfilling his promise to operate the leanest and most efficient government in the history of the Fourth Republic, elements within the opposition have sought to spread falsehood and engage in deliberate disinformation with a view to whittling away the goodwill that President Mahama has naturally, won from the people of Ghana because of the way that he's doing things. So first it started with the Honorable Alhaji&Alhaji, who claimed that President Mahama has appointed 100 presidential staffers and is only seeking to make up for the shortfall in ministers by appointing more presidential staffers. Then lately, Dr. Gideon Boaku, who incidentally has worked in the office of the president before, under the office of the vice president, went out to spread gratuitous falsehoods about the composition of the staff of the office of the president and the monies allocated to the office of the president. Now, the office of the president is made up of a number of entities. So there's what we call the General Administration, Office of the Chief of Staff, Vice President Secretariat, Cabinet Secretariat, Press Secretariat, and then Policy Coordination and Delivery Unit. These are the units that make up the Office of the President. In addition to these units, there are other government agencies that fall under the Office of the President. So together, we call them Office of Government Machinery. Under the MPP, the Office of Government Machinery had 26 entities. That is, if you add the units under the Office of the President. That number was made up of a number of agencies. The list is before me, I could go through all of them. But they created new entities: Coastal Development Authority, Middle Belt Development Authority, IPEP, the one that used to be headed by Howard Kumsin as a whole ministry before it was moved under the Office of the President. And then there's also the Northern Development Authority, the Zongo Development Fund, and what have you. Because President Mahama reduced the number of ministries from 30 to 23, some agencies that used to operate under the collapsed ministries have been moved to the Office of the President for budgetary purposes. Because when the budget is being prepared, the staff of those agencies have to be accounted for. That accounting has to go through a mother agency. So for instance, there was a Ministry of Information, which was headed by a minister. It had 76 directors and staff, civil servants. That ministry doesn't exist anymore. So all the directors and civil servants have left. There's no such thing. Some of them have been reassigned. Now the president appointed me as his spokesperson and Minister of State for Government Communication. That means that all the agencies that used to work under the Ministry of Information have had to come under my jurisdiction. There are some of them who are state-owned enterprises, like the Ghana Publishing Company Limited, Graphic Communication Group, and New Times Corporation. They are state-owned enterprises, so now they fall under SEGA. But the Ghana News Agency, for instance, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, the Information Services Departments, and what have you, fall under me. Now, the staff of these organizations are civil servants who have to be paid. Let me add that President Mahama has not employed a single civil servant in addition to what he came to meet. So the civil servants under these organizations, their salaries have to be catered for. In addition to these three organizations that I have mentioned, because the National Security Ministry was collapsed, now the National Security Council, or the National Security Secretariat, the Research Department, which is an arm of the Security and Intelligence Services of Ghana, the National Signals Bureau, and the National Intelligence Bureau, which used to be called the BNI, all now operate under the Office of the President. So it is the salaries of these staff that are now being catered for under the Office of the President. So when you see 2.7 billion, It is the salaries of these staff plus all the other agencies that form the Office of Government Machinery that is reflected in that number. For example, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation has 1,115 staff. The Information Service Department has 1,309 staff. The Ghana News Agency has 133 staff. When you put it together, that is 2,557 staff. The salaries of these people for, the year 2025 is being catered for through the Office of the President. They will be paid by Controller and Accountant General's Department, as all other public and civil servants are paid. But for budgetary purposes, they will be catered for under the Office of the President. The staff of National Security Council or National Security Secretariat, Research Department, National Signals Bureau, National Intelligence Bureau receive the same treatment. So it is not that the Minister for Finance has allocated 2.7 billion Ghana cedis to President Mahama to squander. No. All the 30 agencies that operate under the Office of the President now have their salaries going through the process that is outlined in the budget. So the 2.7 billion is for them. It is not for President Mahama's use. Now, despite these numbers, who are civil servants, not political appointees, as far as political appointees are concerned, President Mahama has appointed 27 presidential staffers and 3 directors. Today, when he swore in the deputy ministerial nominees and the Minister of State for public sector reforms, he said it. 30 staff. We are in the process of recruiting support staff, but they will come nowhere near the 336 that the MPP had just before they left him. So now when you come to savings, the part of the budget which is discretionary in nature, that government can decide what to spend on. Now mind you, salaries and compensation, that is item 1. When at the end of the month, the government looks at its account, the first thing it thinks of is the salaries of civil servants. That one is fixed. It is not flexible. You can't do anything about it. It's almost statutory. But the part of the budget which is discretionary, if you look at the figures carefully, if you look at the MPP's figures, in the year 2024, just last year, an amount of 924,143,874 cedis was allocated for goods and services under the Office of Government Machinery. This year, an amount of 847,964,846 Ghana cedis has been allocated for goods and services. That is a reduction of 76,179,028 Ghana cedis. Despite the fact that other agencies have been brought here, the goods and services budget, which is discretionary expenditure, has been reduced. If you go to what we call capital expenditure, CAPEX, another item that falls under discretionary expenditure, last year, under President Akufo-Addo, 612,440,588 Ghana cedis was allocated to the Office of Government Machinery, whose composition I've already explained to you. This year, from that lofty 612 million Ghana cedis, 269,755,853 Ghana cedis has been allocated for capital expenditure under the Office of Government Machinery, which is a saving of over 345,322,441 Ghana cedis, if you put that together with the savings that are coming from goods and services. So indeed, because of President Mahama's commitment to operating a lean government, we are seeing a significant reduction in the amount of money allocated to the Office of the President for discretionary expenditure. What Ghanaians criticized President Akufo-Addo was the excessive misuse of public funds in discretionary expenditure. His travel budget alone, at some point in a particular year, was 68 million Ghana cedis. For the first 6 months of a particular year, 68 million Ghana cedis. That has not happened under President Mahama. So the desperate effort by the likes of Dr. Gideon Buaku and Alhaji&Alhaji to seek force equivalence in order to equalize for the clearly irresponsible governance of President Akufo-Addo and the flagrant waste of public resources will not wash. We are aware that disinformation, blatant falsehood, and gratuitous lies are parts of the MPP's armory when it comes to waging a political battle against their opponents. But we stand prepared. As Minister of State responsible for government communication and spokesperson for the President, it is my duty to correct such misinformation. That is why I have found it necessary to engage you, the good people of Ghana, through this medium to explain the issues to you. So, 1, 11 billion Ghana cedis has not been given to President Mahama. 2, the monies that Dr. Gideon Buako is referring to are monies going to the payment of civil servants who have been placed here because their mother ministries have been collapsed. By collapsing the mother ministries, President Mahama has made savings on the monies that would have been used to run the ministries. For instance, the Ministry of Information had 76 directors and officials. Because the ministry doesn't exist anymore, we don't have to provide vehicles for those officials. We don't have to provide office space. We don't have to pay the minister a salary. We do not have to provide the minister with a Land Cruiser and a saloon car. We don't have to give the minister a bungalow. The minister's office would not have to be set up. We don't have to give the minister support staff because of that. Now, because of the scrap of the ministry, now there is myself, there's Shamima Muslim, my deputy, there's Sam Aprat, who is the press secretary to the vice president, and an administrative staff of 3 and 2 other people who help us manage the entire communications of both the presidency and the entirety of government communications. And this is done by barely 7 people. Again, it is not true that I have been allocated a total of 78 million Ghana cedis to manage government communications. That is false. What it is that all the 3 agencies who now have been made parts of the Office of Government Machinery, or who are now under the Office of the President, their goods and services budget and their capital expenditure budget is what you see there. As for myself, my deputy, Amma Pratt, and the people who help us, who make up the managers of the communication wing of the presidency and the entire government of Ghana, nobody has given us any goods and services. Nobody has given us any capital expenditure. This is my office. I don't need any capital expenditure again for this my office. The office just before this one is where 2 administrative staff of mine operate. And together with them and the other people I've mentioned, we manage government communication offices. So we've not been given any goods and services. We've not been given any capital expenditure. The goods and services and capital expenditure, making up 78 million, belongs to ISD. That has 1,309 employees. Ghana Broadcasting Corporation with 1,115 civil servants. And the Ghana News Agency with 133 civil servants. We do know that the MPP used to operate slush funds. So if in their time, they use such monies on propaganda to pay people to abuse political opponents and spread falsehood about them, that is their own business. But we have no such operation going on. And therefore, I thought it was necessary to engage you, the good people of Ghana, to understand the issues so that you are able to know that Gideon Buako is peddling falsehood in a desperate effort to provide excuses for the wanton waste that they superintended in this country. And that is why you, the people of Ghana, voted them out and gave the mandate to President Mahama. He is committed to using your resources judiciously so that you will find that it is possible to achieve a lot with fewer people. And since he became president, he has demonstrated that. So we'll continue to keep you informed and dispel every false notion that is created about this government. Thank you very much for watching.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of...
Good morning, and thank you very much for choosing the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji&Alhaji. And we are live from the studios of Pan-African Television. We are also live on Radio Gold. You can listen to us live on many other affiliate stations across the country. Today, I'll make time to acknowledge them and tell you, if you're moving out of Accra, where you need to, the channel, the frequency you need to tune to be able to listen. But don't forget, you're watching us on TV, you can use the Facebook platform. Facebook, you can watch us live. YouTube, watch us live. The page Pan-African Television on both platforms, YouTube and Facebook. I am SENA NOMBO. This morning, we're talking about the budget because this week, the government of John Dramani Mahama, I always call it John Dramani Mahama number 2, presented their very first budget. This budget is supposed to deal with the current issues that we have, the prevailing issues, from indebtedness, dealing with the expenditure, spending on the things, the programs, the development projects, the infrastructure projects that were started, and then their own promises. Was presented to us this week. So far, the acceptance has been quite good for the government, except for one of the biggest critics. You expect them to do that from the opposition. The opposition have been left on their own, naturally, to criticize this budget. Because civil society thinks that it's a good budget. The business community thinks that it's not bad, except for one thing that they're still waiting for, the promise by the finance minister to work on the VAT, which they have been complaining about, and what will be done about the cost of energy, water, among other things that they need. So they also think that it's a good budget. In fact, the Food and Beverages General Secretary says one of the best budgets he's had in recent times. So they're still waiting for what will be done to the VAT. So we're talking about that budget, the 2025 budget, very first budget of John Dramani Mahama, as presented by Dr. Kesel Ato-Forson. Then we'll move on to a discussion on one of the things the president did last weekend, spend some time in a few places, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, the 3 countries that have come together to form the Alliance of Sahel States. Question is, what is he trying to achieve with this? When he asks his spokespersons, they will tell you they cannot dictate to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger what to do. Whether or not they come into ECOWAS is their own decision to make. But would this be the master stroke that convinces them that perhaps leaving the economic community of West African states is not the best thing to do at this time, and that there's a need for them to come back for all of us to continue to see if we can build a better, much more integrated sub-region? So we're having a discussion in our second topic, and then we'll conclude with the moves we are seeing in terms of the fight against Galamsey. We're told over 40 forests had been taken over. There have been attempts to at least reclaim some, and they've been entering into those forests. They've gotten rid of those who are in those forests who are mining actively. Remember that there was a law that actually allows some of them to do that. So we are asking whether this new approach will succeed when many have failed. To conclude our discussions for today on the matter of all talk shows, Alhaji&Alhaji. Well, joining me in the studio for these discussions this morning, Solomon Owusu is a member of the Movement for Change. Nice to see him this morning. Solo, good morning.
Good morning, Senna.
Yes.
And I hope everything is good.
Yeah, fine. Hope you had a good weekend.
Yes, so far so good.
Yeah, a good week.
We can't complain once we have life. We can't complain.
We're also joined in the studio by Member of Parliament for Sanyerigo, Ataisa. Good morning.
Good morning, Senna.
He's one of the new MPs in Parliament. I guess they are looking forward to what the budget can do for them. The implementability will be one of the things that will help new members of Parliament and many members of Parliament.
And I have full hope and confidence that this budget will help all Ghanaians, not only members of Parliament. So, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think this is my first time.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I'll come back to you to begin the discussion of the budget. But let me welcome Nia Boyanan, who is a financial analyst, also a member of your party, the National Democratic Congress. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, nice to see you today.
Yes, it will come soon.
And then the panel will be completed by none other than Comrade Bernard Mona, 2024 flag bearer of the People's National Convention, of course. Someone who, a face that you know very well when it comes to Alhaji&Alhaji. Once again, thank you very much. Your comments are important to us. Do share them using the WhatsApp text message number, and also do share them when you go on any of our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube. I'll read them as we go along in the show. Well, let's start with the budget. And like I said, Honorable Member of Parliament for Sanyarugo Ataisa gets to start for us. Honorable.
Okay, so let me say good morning to our listeners and our viewers, and to say that it is important to begin by commending the Minister for Finance for presenting the budget of hope. I think this is the shortest but most accepted and then most impactful budget we've seen in recent years, pursuant to Article 1791 of our Constitution. He came to deliver a message on behalf of the President that seeks to show the path or the direction that the country we want to take. And if you look at Section 21 of the Public Financial Management Act, it gives us components of what a budget should entail. So one thing that is different from other budgets with regards to this budget is that sectorial performances and estimates are left on to be done by the ministers. And that's how come you see that the budget was very brief. Unlike previous budgets that sometimes it takes 3 hours and all those things. So he was able to carry every Ghanaian along. And when you go onto the street and ask what was their key takeaways from the budget, I'm sure you can mention them. It is because he made sure that he consolidated all the sector ministers and agencies and departments so that the various indicative figures from their respective sectors will be presented to Parliament at the committee level. So I think this is a smart way of doing budget presentation. So, like you indicated, there is general level of acceptability of our budget, and I think that to use the words of the CEO of Delex Finance, Joe Jackson, who said that the only thing that you find wrong with the budget is no much Bible verses and quotations. Any other thing in the budget is spot on, and it is intended to alleviate the suffering of our people. So I said, like, the regulation says there are 3 components to a budget, and I'll just calculate in that 3 components. First of all, a budget statement should show the outcomes for the previous year. Outcomes means that the outcome of all the government policies on some macroeconomic indicators, the real sector, and that of the external sector developments. So we cannot understand this budget without understanding where we are coming from, because the budget seeks to respond to the outcomes of the previous year, which is the 2024 budget. We inherited an IMF economy. I think post-COVID Russia-Ukraine war, as they used to say, Ghana signed an IMF deal in 2023 that seeks to stabilize our economy and lead to fiscal consolidation. And based on that, the IMF set us various targets. I remember after our second review, they set a target for 2024, and I'll take it in this format. First of all, they give us structural benchmarks, and there are 2 structural benchmarks that we use. Number 1 is your inflation, because that directly affects every household. It wipes away nominal income of workers, it wipes away nominal income of the average Ghanaian, and also increase the cost of what? Food prices. So they said we must end the year at 18%. But we all know that we ended the 2024 with an inflation rate of 23.8%. So even with those strict compliance order under the IMF program, we still meet our structural benchmarks. Number 2 was a primary balance on commitment basis. And it is important I do it side by side whilst responding to the minority. If you know what a primary balance is, it simply means when you your domestic expenditure out of your domestic revenue minus interest payment, it suggests the fiscal health. If your domestic revenue is enough to take care of your domestic expenditure, I'm not sure you will borrow. So when you are doing lower primary budget deficit, it simply means that you are borrowing less because your domestic revenue is enough to offset your expenditures. So the IMF set a target for us to do a surplus of about 0.5%, meaning that at least our domestic revenue should be enough to cover our domestic expenditure. However, if you look at 2023, we did a primary balance deficit of 0.2% negative. So instead of calling the primary balance of 0.2 negative, let's just say primary deficit of 0.2%. And we're expected to do 0.5 to move it from deficit to a surplus of 0.5. We ended the year with negative 3.9%, worsened by 4.4%. So yesterday, 2 days ago, I heard a minority say that for the first time they saw us putting a figure of 49.2 billion as unrealized claims, and that they don't understand what type of voodoo economics was that. So I want to use this platform to do some little education. First of all, when you are doing reporting, Ghana and across the globe, we use what we call the accrual concept. It is not only cash payments that you report. You also report on commitments. The total amount that was included in the expenditure line in determining that primary balance was 67.5 billion Ghana cedis. However, it was segregated. 18 billion and 49.2 billion. The 18 billion was the amount that was the claims that were validated and bank advice given to the Controller and Accountant General to make payments. So meaning that the finance minister has validated all those claims and then proceeded to give approval for such payments. And bank transfer advice was issued to the Controller and Accountant General for payment, awaiting money for payment. The second component, which is the 49.2 billion, were various invoices that were submitted to the finance ministry for payment from ministries, departments, and agencies. So it is not yet validated, but it is work done. And we are determining our total expenditure. If you don't pay, doesn't mean it is not an expenditure, because these are invoices that people have done work and they expect payment to happen. So it is erroneous to say that the 49.2 billion shouldn't have been added, when we all know that invoices and estimates, invoices and outcomes that they have submitted, indicating the work that they have done, it was on to them to do validation before they leave office, but they didn't. So we had to consolidate all as part of our accrual concept. Now, the second thing we need to look at is the public debt situation that we inherited. Look, due to the magnanimity of our Ghanaian people, we accepted for the first time what we called the domestic debt exchange program. And there were 4 components. One was the Dachi bonds that was issued. 2 was the locally issued government of Ghana bonds. 3 was the external debt component. And then 4 was the principal haircuts that they did onto the external sector. Now, despite all those things, there was a total debt reduction of 103 billion Ghana cedis domestically. And then 37% debt cut on principal, not even interest payments, so on principal of external bondholders. Yet we ended the year with 726.3 billion Ghana cedis. Despite all those tax debt reductions, we still ended the year of public debt of 726.3 billion Ghana cedis. Apart from that, we had a lot of fiscal challenges with some state-owned enterprises. You know them already. Bank, Cocobot 32 billion, ECG 68 billion, and all those. I don't need to mention them again. But we had so much fiscal imbalance in some of those SOEs. Upon all those difficulties, we ended the year with a debt to GDP of about 61%. And in the minority press conference, they said how can we say we inherited a criminally managed economy, yet debt to GDP ended the year with 61%, higher than NDC time of 70, I think 73% they said. So education once again to the minority. First of all, you cannot use a rebase figure in 2024, okay. And then you use a rebase figure rather for 2020. No, you cannot use a rebase figure this year and not use a rebase year for 2016. We all know that we ended the year in 2016 with a budget debt to GDP ratio of about 56.7% or so, and now we are doing 61. But we need to look at what occasioned even the 61.3%. First of all, I said there was a debt reduction through the locally issued bonds of 103 billion. There was also 37% loss on principal of the external debt of 21 billion. Despite all those things, you still did a debt to GDP ratio of about 61%. So it is not an achievement. Number three, you look at the financial sector performance. And look, I think my PhD is in how to make sure that the domestic financial market is strong to attract FDIs and also promote trade among African countries. And I'll tell you, it is not enough to look at capital adequacy of banks. Ask yourself primary questions like, what is the local participation in the financial sector? This government came to collapse all indigenous banks and financial institutions because of political vendetta and victimization. In 2016, an asset quality review was done by the Bank of Ghana to show the health of our banking sector. Okay. And it required 9 billion Ghana cedis to make sure that we put all those suffering banks on right footing for growth. And then the second recommendation was that the Bank of Ghana Supervision Department should intensify supervision. And then the third one was that we must inculcate the habit of good corporate governance strategies. And it is as a result of the asset quality review that they even introduced as part of the amendment they did to Bank of Ghana to make sure that commercial banks have, MDs now have a fixed term of 4 years, renewal for a second term. Now you can only be an MD for only 8 years. In previous times, you could be an MD forever. But as a result of the asset quality review, familiarity threats make sure that MDs become overly comfortable at their base, and then they engage in so much malpractices over there. So we required only 9 billion to solve the problem. You people came to do in economy have what we call signaling effect. You people came to say you were collapsing some banks because the person is in court. You were doing this because the person owed contractors. You were doing this because of the. Then it resulted in panic withdrawals. Those banks have also invested monies into construction. They've invested monies into other businesses. Then depositors couldn't get their money. In 2024 end year, we spent 30.3 billion Ghana cedis in reviving a 9 billion problem. This year, the MPP, as part of their vote on expenditure in advance of appropriation that they presented, the 3 months, they indicated that Ghana needs 10.3 billion Ghana cedis to solve the banking sector problem. Additionally, to the 30.3 billion, we still needed another 10 billion to solve it. And then we need 2 billion to recapitalize ADB and NIB. Now, you mess up the financial sector like this, you reduce local participation, and yet you say we should clap for you. The fourth one I will talk about is the real sector growth, and I will not spend too much time in the real sector growth. They were so happy saying that how can we describe a mismanaged economy with a growth rate of 5.7% as compared to 2016 of 3.6%. Look, on Wednesday, the government statistician came and I rose to ask, what was the end year GDP and what was the drivers of the growth? He provided an answer, and I brought the report. This is the report that he came to deliver, and after that I'll present it to you. He said Ghana ended the year with 5.7%, but the largest portion of the growth was attributable to service sector, And even in the service sector, what led the service sector to grow higher was because of telecommunication. And even in the telecommunication was data. You and I know the cost of data in Ghana now. So if there is increase in data, the data cost, and it leads to a higher growth rate, is it something that can serve as a welfare indicator? People are not able to buy data these days, or you use your data few minutes, you'll say it's exhausted. And it is leading your growth, and you are happy. The second source or driver for the growth was the mining inquiry of 19.1%. And ask yourself, what is the local participation rate in the mining sector? Or what is our carried interest? The carried interest in the mining sector is 13%. So it means that even the second largest driver for the GDP is repatriated. So what's its impact on the Ghanaian people? Then you look at the SENA sector. They said they mismanaged the economy, yet they left us with an import cover that could cover 4 months. Ignorantly, they don't know that if you are not servicing your external debts for 2022, 2023, and 2024, you are not paying any external debts. Apart from that, you went begging for them to cut 37% of their principal. Why won't you have external reserves? But they didn't talk about exchange rate. You inherited an exchange rate of 4 cedi to $1, and you left it at 15.56 before you left office. Yet they didn't talk about that. So when you look at all these problems, the budget seeks to respond to these problems. I was particularly happy as a member of parliament because oftentimes when you go to your constituency and you see the abject poverty people go through, Article 36, Directive Principle of State Policy, mandates governments to seek to maximize the welfare of people. In fact, the basic tenets of governance is maximization of welfare of the citizens, not to inflict more hardship on them. So, on the revenue front, there were a lot of reliefs that will come to households. And it is important we remind Ghanaians where we are coming from. And I am particularly happy to demonstrate sincerity and urgency in this. The Minister of Finance on Thursday, 13th March, came to the House to lay these bills as a matter of urgency. He came under Order 163. First, look at what the bills that he seeks to do. Electronic Transfer Levy, Repeal Bill 2025. So the Minister of Finance brought a bill for us to repeal the electronic levy, that is the e-levy. So everybody watching us or listening to us from afar, you should know this is under a certificate of urgency and it is expected to go as soon as possible. And it was referred to the Finance Committee. I'm a member of the Finance Committee. So I think on Thursday, Friday, we'll be dealing with these urgent bills. Then the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund Bill, that's the GET Fund, that will free capital for us to fund the free SHS policy of 3.5 billion Ghana cedis. And then the free tertiary education for people with disability. Then the Revenue Administration Bill will also be amended. Then the Special Import Levy. Then the Emission Tax will be repealed. Then the Income Tax will also be amended. Growth and Sustainability Levy, earmark capping and realignment act will be amended to free money. When you look at the NHIL, you see that it is capped. So we want to uncap it to free money to do the Mahama care and then the primary health care. So it is not just lip talk. The finance minister is demonstrating to us that the burden that they subjected the Ghanaian citizen should never happen again. And it is as a result of that he's bringing some of these things. On the expenditure front, I was also happy that at least some level of social interventions have been introduced into the discussion. So first of all, I know that assembly members will now be paid, and it was part of our social contract with the Ghanaian people to pay monthly stipends or allowances to assembly members. We are also going to train 1 million Ghanaians into coding, digital coding. So that's the 1 million coders program. We are also talking about the Women's Development Bank that seeks to provide low interest support for women at the lowest level. People confuse it with commercial lending. They say, why are we allocating only 51 million? This does not seek to provide capital for business women. For low interest, small amounts or small scale businesses. Because if you are a big business and you are a woman, you can access those loans at commercial banks and NIB and those things. But this one, for those that they will demand collateral. In my constituency, some people just need 1,000 Ghana cedis to start a business, some 500 Ghana cedis and all those things. So it's a good program. Then we talk about the National Apprenticeship Program of 300 million Ghana cedis. Look, we started that policy even prior to the election, where I organized seamstress, masons, tailor, all those facets of our soft skills people. And we provide soft capital for them. We also do training for them. President Mahama wants to come and intensify sighting. Then the Juma Work program that seeks to train about 10,000 youth. Then we talk about the LEAP increase in allocation for LEAP program that will increase the beneficiary from 350 to 400,000 people. Then we talk about school feeding that will increase the per head from 1 cedi 50 pesos to about 2 cedi. We increase the capitation grant, and then the free primary health care, and then the mama care, and then big push to complete critical sectors of our economy. So when you look at overall performance of the budget, even though not yet implemented, but it gives a sense of hope and direction to suggest that Ghanaian person, first of all, will not be burdened with a tax, more taxes. If you look at even the taxes that ATU is introducing, one is the debt growth and sustainability levy from 1% to 3% on mining companies. I already told that Ghana carried interest in the mining industry just 13%. So it will not have a direct consequence on the average Ghanaian. Then the special import levy will be increased up to 2028 that we are already paying. So I don't think it's anything new. So a lot of relief has been brought to the Ghanaian people. In fact, some experts even say this budget is more consumption than even industrial, because we want to uplift the suffering of our people. There is a good news for the industrial sector too, because you know, he's a finance person. Tax distortions. In fact, one of the ethics or etiquettes of tax policies must be economy, it must be convenient to the taxpayer. If you look at our current VAT regime, the MPP came with this policy of increasing the VAT on household from 20% to 21.9%. The finance minister wants to reverse it back to the 20% under the new VAT regime we are proposing. Number two is also to eliminate the COVID levy. And then number three, they decoupled NHIL and GET fund. And for the emphasis, what it simply meant was that they made it a compound interest. So if you are buying a good at 100 Ghana cedis, and you are paying an NHI of 2.5% and then GET fund of 2.5%, if you had done it 5% on the 100 Ghana cedis, you get 5 cedis, am I right? But what they used to do was that they would charge 2.5% on the 100 Ghana cedis, add the figure they will get back onto the 100 Ghana cedi before they will charge the GET fund. So you are paying double taxation, tax on tax. Are you getting what I'm saying? So this government seeks to eliminate those distortions for people to be able to pay. And then this whole concept of, they eliminated the concept of output import VAT regime. Because look, VAT simply means value addition. So it is when you are adding value to a product, that's when you pay the VAT. These people make sure that every commodity, whether it is used for further production or not, they applied VAT on it. So it made businesses suffer a lot, even at the port. So for me, I will say that the budget was done neatly, and we are waiting for the debate next week. And I was surprised that minority had to spend several hours debating something that will come to the floor for us to debate under order. Let me revise the under order 201. We are expected to debate the budget. But I don't. It's an annual ritual. When the government presents a budget, the opposition also comes with their own state of the budget. So I'm not surprised. But we can all have different set of facts. The facts are the same. And finally, I will say, I don't think we need moral lessons from the NPP. Because despite all the superior arguments that they think they are making, it landed them at the IMF, and it also delivered the worst political defeat ever witnessed in the history of this country. So if I need advice, I think I would rather take it from Movement for Change, because they saw it coming and they thought it was better they move out. So it is not a period for us to engage in. We must build the Ghana we all want together. It is not enough for always giving criticism when there is no need. This budget has been widely accepted by the industry players. It's also been accepted by the household. It's also been accepted by the SENA community. And I know that next 3 weeks, the IMF will be coming. And I'm sure our fiscal regimes and the monetary policy. In fact, harmonization of the fiscal and monetary policy is now important. Because oftentimes, I ask myself, why will Bank of Ghana want interest rate? Why would they increase their policy rates when government of Ghana wants lending rates at the commercial banks to be lower? It's due to lack of policy harmonization. So I think I've seen the discussions already between the finance minister and the governor of Bank of Ghana. They should make sure that they tighten our fiscal space, make sure that they consolidate our gains that we make from the 2025 budget, and make sure that they harmonize the two tax policy regimes. Thank you.
Thank you. He's Honorable Member of Parliament for Sanyarogo, and I guess you know that constituency. A great replacement for Honorable ABF Husseini. Well, unfortunately, we didn't bring the progress. Anyway, we're still discussing the budget on Alhaji&Alhaji, no matter what talk shows. We are live on Pan-African Television, live on Radio Gold. I'll take the views of Mr. Solomon Owusu now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Cherished viewers, to Honorable Actor Issa, and to my brother who is yet to be given any appointment in the National Democratic Congress, though he was always fighting with me. I still remain in opposition.
I thought we were friends.
And he is in government. So you see, the tables don't change. But they have to, as a matter of urgency, push him so that he can continue to come and defend the National Democratic Congress. You remember the Alhaji&Alhaji we did at Ododododo?
Yes.
He brought limelight to Ododododo. I am only telling them the truth. You were coming to program here with B. Where is B? He has not been coming. Presidential staffer, Bank of Ghana. You can't abandon Alhaji&Alhaji. All those that were coming and now you have appointments, don't try to play smart. You have to be coming back. SENA, budget. Let me say that from 1957 to date, various finance ministers, on behalf of their presidents, have been reading budgets to us. And budget simply is estimates. Underpinning every budget is that assume all things being equal. And I don't remember the last time everything was equal for us to achieve whatever we put there. So listeners must understand that you can have things put in the budget, but at the end of the day, you cannot achieve it. A typical example is that in 2024, if you look at the NPP's own projections, they estimated to achieve a GDP of 3.1% at the end of the year. According to the government statistician, they had 5.7. So they exceeded what they themselves had as it were estimated. In the same way, they had estimated that the deficit will be 4.2. However, they did 7.9. So clearly, budgets are the estimates that people think that they could achieve. Budgets are also made to fulfill what my brother said under Article 36. Is the only constitutional provision that gladdens my heart. And once again, I'll read to the people of this country so that all of you would understand the work that the president together with his team are supposed to do for you and you supposed to do for them. Article 36(1). My people in my village, if you are listening, listen. The state shall take all necessary action to ensure that the national economy is managed in such a manner as to maximize the rate of economic development and to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every person in Ghana, and to provide adequate means of livelihood and suitable employment and public assistance to the needy. This is all that is expected of any president and government. That if I'm not happy, it is your responsibility to make me happy. If I don't have any access to adequate means of livelihood, it is your responsibility as a government to ensure that I have livelihood. If I need any public assistance, it is the duty of the government of the day to ensure that I have access to such things. This budget, I believe, comes into attempt to deal with some of the issues that the National Democratic Congress during their campaign raised. Remember, we went into election 2024 with about 4 major issues. Galamsey, the instability of the currency, unemployment, and then bad infrastructure. Remember on several or countless occasions where people will come here and just show a ball of kenke, it's 10 cities. You remember those days? Yeah. So I believe that this budget is to deal with that ball of kenke mantra that is so expensive. You get my point? Again, this budget is to reverse the inflationary rate. At a point we did 54%. That's in 2022. It reduced to 39 or so. The NPP ended its tenure with an inflation of about 23.8 or so. So clearly, we have an issue at hand. But in all fairness, let me say that from the budget and from what I see from it, the government has made some attempt to want to meet voters halfway. I'm saying they are making an attempt because the budget has not been actualized. Implementation is yet to take place. So the government, for instance, says, I would take off e-levy. Yes, we have been told that already under a certificate of authority agency, the bill to amend the existing law is in place, and that evidence has been shown to me, order paper addendum 2, and you see electronic transfer levy repeal bill 2025. So it's a clear commitment that the president and his government wants to make do of what they promised the people of this. It's very important that e-levy is taken off because it is killing business. It is stifling participation in our electronic space by the people of this country. So once the government is doing that, I am very happy and I give them thumbs up. The government also says that it is taking out betting tax, which I have disagreed anyway. I thought that betting tax rather has to be increased. But yes, that was a promise they gave to the people of this country, based on which they were voted into power. So if they have come and they are taking it out or off, I don't have any problem. I don't know whether that one too, it is in there, the betting tax, a bill to amend.
Yes,
yes.
No, it's captured here.
All right.
Here.
All right. Revenue Administration Amendment. All right. So that one too, from what I hold, and I have no reason to doubt the paper, is yellow. It's not green. It's a yellow paper. It's the movement for change. So it means that, yes, that one is also being taken care of.
We're waiting for green.
The other one that we are, as it were, hoping it takes place, which we are observing and watching closely, is the COVID levy. And also the compound calculation of VAT, as he was explaining. You see, the compound calculation of VAT is so dangerous for the survival of business. Why do you calculate levies, go and add it to gross before you apply VAT? But Ken of Rata brought it somewhere in 2018 and told us that we had difficulty with our financing. And it was only going to be in place for only a year. Now he says in Minnesota, it writes to us. You know Paul in the Bible? Paul was somewhere in Turkey, was writing to the people of Greece. So Paul's letters to the people of Greece, that's what he's doing to Kerofreata's letters to the people of Ghana. By that, we would have recorded and there would be a Bible. Therefore, that COVID levy, it came in because there was COVID. There is no more COVID now, and there must not be any reason why that COVID levy is there. So from the movement of change perspective, we are watching closely, monitoring things. Because the same rod that was used to checkmate Bar will be the same rod that will affect Emmanuel. You understand? Now they say technical committee from the IMF will have to look. I also disagree with that. They must find people from this country. These Indians, Pakistanis who come here under the guise of IMF, they don't know any jack. Our situation is different. We have consultants, financial consultants, lecturers and stuff. These are ways and means of improving the economy of this country. Give the job to the consultants. The IMF cannot come and dictate to us how we manage our tax schemes.
But we are under a program. Huh?
The mere fact that we are under IMF program does not mean everything, even when we are eating. They must come and tell us. They should give us a break. So that one too, I disagree. There is no doubt that this country was mismanaged in the past. The last administration did not help our country. And we must not take what happened on the December 7th as something that was a fluke. The Ghanaian was really, really reigning in abject poverty. So much hardship, and it still exists. And so the government, this current administration, must have only one goal, one objective, to ameliorate the plight of the teeming Ghanaian, the unemployed youth, the hopelessness that is seeping and creeping deep into our body politic. This administration must be able to deal with it. Now, what does the team of the budget says? The team of the budget is what? Restoring what? Resetting the economy for the Ghana we want. Is that not it? Is it resetting the economy? Yes. Let me see the budget statement. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So the resetting the economy for the Ghana we want. So the question you ask yourself is, what Ghana do you and I want? And I believe that is what this budget must be addressing. The Ghana I want is a Ghana that I'll wake up and turn on my tap and it's flowing. The Ghana that I want is to see good roads. The Ghana that I want is to see schools that students learn under proper environmental conditions. The Ghana that I want is not to see my ministers, my MPs, heads of SOEs fall sick and the next available flight, they are in Dubai, they are in New York, they are in Madrid, they are in London, seeking medical attention, whereas 99.9% of the populace that put them there still attend our dilapidated medical facilities. That is the Ghana that I want. The Ghana that I want is a Ghana that our food imports are less. And so, in terms of the allocations that this budget has done, I believe that one of the cardinal principles that must guide all ministers of states, heads of agencies, MMDCs and so on and so forth is what we call local content or local participation. For instance, you are talking about 3.5 million Ghana cedis being allocated to the free SHS. That alone, billion Ghana cedis. That alone must be able to impact on the local economy. Why? People are going to provide food for these schools. Is that not the case? Yeah. So, can't we make it a policy that about 70% of the food needs of the secondary schools will be provided locally instead of importing rice? And mind you, you financiers of various political parties, from now to go, will come after you because they are the reason why this country is not growing. When politicians, when a president comes, said, I don't believe that any president come with the intention of mismanaging anything. They come, and many a times the financiers, when they want to do good, those that prepare them through their finances to become president will say no. We want to help local farmers to grow their rice, to grow their tomatoes, and so on and so forth. They say no, we can get it cheaper in Vietnam, we can get it cheaper in China, and so on and so forth. And now what they do that even annoys me the more is that they bring this rice here and come and bag it in rice made in Ghana, just to deceive the Ghanaian populace, when in fact the rice was never produced in this country. We must understand that any grain of rice that we import to this country, we ship out employment from this country. So that if we were going to buy the foodstuffs from the local farmers, at least these farmers will have income to be able to expand their farms, and by so doing, engage more people into the activities. So the first point of call is that local content, the free SHS, those that are going to provide food, and you can extend the argument to the printing of the textbooks. Yeah. Go to Newtown, go to Asafu Market, go to Sunyani, go to Tamale, regional capitals. People, Ghanaians, have invested in this printing industry. What makes anybody think that the machines that are printed in India and China are better than what is printed in this country? At least 70% of that printing needs, and those that will be given the contract, you too must help us by not going or subletting this contract to people outside the country, so that you would have gone for the contract as a Ghanaian, yet you go to India or China to bring it. If you lack capacity, I mean the machines you can buy, and by so doing, you would also be empowering the local banks. Sit with these banks and then let them provide you with your machine needs, so that we print the books locally. All that I'm saying is that we must practicalize our local content. Go to Makola early in the morning. The last time I went to Makola, Okanshi there, very early in the morning, around 6 a.m. I met a Chinese lady, blah, 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 blah. I said, hey, is that where we are going to? The lady is selling shoes. When you and I know that under a GIPC Act or law, they are not supposed to engage in retailing. Yet they are doing it. SENA, with this, how can we grow this economy? So that if you have taken a critical look at our setup, go to the major cities and all prime locations, all first class, second class residential neighborhoods are being occupied majority by foreigners. Ghanaians are now in the suburbs. We are in the villages. We are living as strangers on our own lands, just because we are not solid when it comes to purchasing power.
Economically empowered.
Economical empowerment. And these are national security threats. And there has to be a deliberate policy. Governments are put there to deliberately ensure that their people are empowered. And that is what I want to see in this budget. I want to see the implementation. Always and always, it is the implementation aspect of our budget that is a problem. In terms of the beauty of it, yes, you read it for the first time. At least we did not hear the quotation of Bibles. We did not hear someone speaking slowly and wearing white just to deceive the minds. He went straight to the point and said, sector ministers will be defending their budgets. Is that not the case? so that you come there and then defend it to the people of this country. He is not, the finance minister is not the minister responsible for each of the sectors. So you must explain to the people why you say we should give you this and what are you going to do with it. It's very important. A sector like agriculture, I've already said, and I believe the current minister, in terms of his understanding of that sector, there is no doubt about that he understands agriculture sector. But there is a difference between understanding and implementing to achieve results. What would I use to measure the minister responsible for agri? It is that at the moment we are importing close to $1 billion worth of tin tomatoes. We are importing close to $100 million worth of tomato itself from Burkina. We are importing close to $800 million worth of rice. So that if by next year you are able to even reduce the importation by say 5% or 10%, then I know that there is a headway. But if you continue to do the same things over and over again, you will get the same results. A policy like planting for food and jobs, on paper very good, very beautiful, rearing for food and jobs. How is it that as a country we continue to import frozen chicken? Frozen chicken? You want to tell me the conditions in the Netherlands are so conducive and suitable for poultry farming than Ghana? But because it serves people's interest. And yet again, it comes back to financiers of political parties who prefers to import frozen chicken that has its own health risk. A lot of health-related diseases that we are having is as a result of these junk foods. That enkokon ketenkete that the NDC promised, they must not renege on it. It must be implemented, because you see, economics is about the micro and the macro. What you do at your small levels, the aggregation of it leads to an improved economy. So I was very surprised during the campaign that when they said they were going to do enkokon ketenkete, the MPP actually made an advert out of it and said, and they were laughing, and I realized that we were dealing with dumps. You don't know the importance of what they were saying. Do it and you see how within the shortest possible time the entire economy will turn around. Our health needs, so much debt has been left. They are talking about $1.7 billion that is needed to finish a little agenda one. You see how sometimes some of us get mad. President Kufuor, how can you do that together with your government? That you knew you did not have the resources to complete all the 111. What prevented you from using the limited resources you had to do, say, 10, 20, so that we know that these ones are finished?
Places where they are needed.
Places where they are needed. Populism playing to the gallery, and they now he's sitting in the house. Someone has to suffer for that, and not someone, the entire country. Because I've heard the president say that he's looking, private sector should enter to partner government. I'm very interested in that anyway. But if you partner government, the cost of it will still come back to the Ghanaian. And what would you have done? What would you have done? Is that a sound business judgment? If Ghana was his personal company, would he, given this circumstance or data, have done what he did? But because of chop, let's do it 111 hospitals. At the end of the day, we are told that about $400 million have been expended. You believe that all these $400 million went into this project? People have actually enriched themselves at the expense of the poor. At the expense of the poor. And we cannot allow some of these things to continue the way it is. And that is why some of us will follow religiously what the NDC has put before the people of this country in terms of the budget. Why I believe that they deserve some praise, I will tell them. But why I believe, like I've said, that I'm still waiting for the COVID and the compact calculation of that to go, I will monitor it unless they kill God. Because the people of this country must also begin to taste freedom. It is not always as though this country, when the Ghanaian is okay, it has someone. Every day taxes, every day taxes. We have been talking about the tax to GDP of this country being low, 13%. Go and check between 1987 to 2024. The average tax regime of Singapore is about 12.8%. The difference between Ghana and Singapore is that there is no Singaporean leader who would invest $58 million to go and dig a hole that I am constructing a national cathedral. That was sickness, madness. And we have church leaders, bishops, castles, all of them supporting it. Nobody will get away with that. One President Kufuor was luring you into this. Couldn't two people look straight into his face and tell him that this is not good? But we left them. We call them puppets. We call them this. We call them that. They misled the country. And you want to take yourself out of it? Hey, me and God will have issues. If they are the people representing him on earth and then mislead an entire country for $58 million. So when they go and do these bogus investments, they come and tell you that your tax to GDP ratio must be increased to. Go and check on the average. Countries that have developed, what is the tax to GDP ratio? You understand? Which Singaporean leader will invest $2 million under the pretext that I'm constructing SkyTrade while we don't see anything? So you see what we use our money for? We were only going to engage in all African games. Small game. SENA, so small. I just let go here. It took a minister for youth and sport, Mustafa Yusuf, and his administration to come and tell us that they expended $245 million. What do you know in this country? What did you do about it? You spoke about it, is that not the case? Why are we all of a sudden forgetting about this? Hey, are you people also going to take share in it? Let me see. Because some of it are so clear that someone comes to tell you that I printed, what do you call it? Tax, accreditation, yeah. For the 4.5 million dollars. Yeah. And that person continuously organizes press conference and rebut, has the nerve. $50 million was used to cook wache in this country. They tell us. TMA, they constructed new sports stadium in Takwa. It costed them $13 million. This University of Ghana stadium was already 86% or so complete. Just the 14%, this man told us that he expended $36 million to do that. Jagaba Kaburi, that is the MP's constituency. I've been there twice. People are not getting good drinking water to drink. You come to Accra, you look straight into my face and tell me that you use $50 million together with Asante Bediatu and the wife to cook wache for Alice that are coming from Ethiopia who never knows how to eat wache. Alice that are coming from Liberia who never knows how to eat wache. And when you are in power and the government, instead of being bold and confront some of these issues, you are sitting idle. Tax refund, we are told that some 16 billion, they don't know how they used it. Finance minister, don't just say it and leave it all. Because we are talking about billions. So in this country, we don't respect money. This time, they don't even talk about millions. Oh. Everything is billion. So it is making me feel as though you are poor. I'm too poor. Because if the million, you haven't gotten there. Then you people have turned to billion. And these monies are in the pockets of people. And they are walking about. Go to cantonments, go to Laboni. All of a sudden, apartments are springing up. They go and hide behind these Indians, Lebanese. How many of the Indians and Lebanese have money in this country? And it is you and I, our money. We will pay through our nose. Our children will come and pay. And the most annoying thing is that their children will go and come and tell you that our parents were smart. So if it must be done, it must be done well. We know what has happened in this country. All of a sudden, national service issue is dying out. What people blatantly, and mind you, we need money. How can you convince me sitting here that Tonaton, you know Tonaton, buy and sell. Cocoa board is only engaging in Tonaton. Buying and selling. And the most funny thing is that the cocoa is ready, already there. The buyers are also there. You tell me that you are in debt of 32.5 billion. How did that come about? Another Tonaton business, ECG. You hold a monopoly. You pre-sell even electricity to us and take it at all. Anytime. Yesterday morning I was in darkness. Nobody would explain anything to you. When I called the gentleman, I said, oh, you people should have reported earlier. Hey, you took my money and took the light. You don't know that you have taken my light. They say, we are owing 68 billion. SENA, can you imagine? And the budget is struggling to find how we plug this hole. Already, the estimates for the year, we are expected to mobilize 233 billion. Is that not the case? But go and check our expenditure, 269 billion. Right there, there is a deficit of 43 billion. That deficit is in the pockets of people. Don't go and burden the people of this country by going for extra loans. Go for the money from those that have stolen it from Akufo-Addo's administration. It's enough to offset the deficit. Now you are about living power and MDAs are able to commit this government to contract worth 194 billion. I tell you, about 80% of it goes chop. They were going to steal. SENA, so me, I am not fascinated by what your English says in your budget. This morning I heard a lady on TikTok called Khadija say she has heard that they have removed the E-level. So they are not interested in your jargons. All that they are interested in is that I was paying E-levy, it has stopped. I was paying COVID tax, it has stopped. Now, transport fares are coming down, things are coming. That is the only way we will measure you. And when you do it and do it well, you may have sympathy from the people so that in the next elections, you can place second to the movement for change. But if you don't do it well, if you do not do it well, SENA, our campaign will be very easy come 2028. And the government must be mindful that they have front-loaded a lot of debt for the period 2027 to 2028. It's a political strategy if the NDC does not know. Because every government wants to perform in the last year. I would mean. But if you go and check our debt profile, that's when we are going to pay a lot of the domestic debt, that haircut that they give people, and the external debt. So after paying that, what money would you be using to do your infrastructure development? That is why you must go after those that have caused this country all this pain. You must go after them. And with that, you can make a...
Thank you very much. On the matter of local content, I realize the president himself is a farmer.
Yeah.
He's a rice farmer.
He's a rice farmer.
And so some of the biggest rice farmers are in his party. One of them is the health minister.
Yes.
The other one is his former roads minister, Alhaji&Alhaji.
Yes.
In fact, is Northeast chairman. He's a very big
so
big
if
farmer.
they don't do anything about it this time around. Hey.
Anyway, thank you very much. This is Latelila who says good morning. Mohammed Amin is inside Tamale Shishegu. We are only reminding me that you are there. There's a Zakaria Ibrahim Laos who says, so you are exhibiting wisdom and patriotism about foreigners. Thus, immigration must work properly. You need a budget to lead a crusade of national interest. Musa Abatwa, I'm absolutely thrilled with the 2025 budget. It's a significant step towards addressing the true needs and aspirations of the Ghanaian people. By scrapping unnecessary and burdensome taxes that were introduced under the previous administration, the government is taking a much-needed step to ease the financial pressure on every citizen. This is exactly the kind of leadership and direction we need to reset Ghana on the path of growth. Abam Papa Abba. Okay. There's Emmanuel Nana Tugu was giving Solo fans. Wisdom means wise. Solomon means wisdom. Asima Banda is also joining us. Said good morning, SENA, and your brainy panel. Enjoy your show as always. Very insightful and informative. My special greetings to my brother and MP, Honorable Ataisa. The entire Sanyarugu and Bosa fraternity are proud of you, Honorable So Higher. Prosper Tigan says, I just like this man. Is it Neni Kwa Augustine who says, Mr. Solo be coming down? Fred Wynn says, please tell Solo that he made my day on the show today. He spoke patriotically. Kudos. Good morning to Vincent Kingsford. We do. There's Charles Thompson, let us be absolutely clear about one thing. Vast majority of the problems are caused by the electorate. They worship and glorify corrupt, reading politicians instead of holding them accountable. Ziblim Sani says, Honorable Ataisa is an inspiration to the many youth in the north and beyond. We pray Allah guide his affairs and protect him for us so he can continue with the many good works he has started. More grace to your Honorable. There's Salifu Isa, who is also joining us, said the Blichina people of Sanyarugu did not waste their vote. Honorable Ataisa, MPP lost the battle of the economy, culminating in huge electoral defeat. 3 months after the electoral monumental disgrace, it is a brazen foolhardiness to think the lost battle can be won by shouting and engaging in the same deceitful conduct that landed them into the state of political oblivion. Thank you, Salifu, for saying that. Ziblim again. My name is Sani, watching you live from the Sanyarugu constituency. My greetings to Honorable Ataisa. In fact, he has made us proud by the way he always tackles issues with concrete facts. We have no iota of regret making him representative of the good people of Sanyarugu. Thank you for that. Gladys Asari said, congratulations to the president and the people who voted him to power. Israel Bina says, Mr. Solomon, IMF won't give you a break until you start to feed yourself. Gladys Asari is also joining us. Fuseni Yakubu, good morning. Francis Edem says, welcome this year's budget with the hope that it will reflect in our pockets. Congratulations, President John Dramani Mahama. Sly Igwe says the MPP's party is full of arrogant, dishonest, and violent personalities. Thank you. Alhaji Sling City says the good people of Sanyarugu are proud of this young, brainy MP, Honorable Ataisa. We need to protect him. The future is very bright for him in Ghana's politics. My greetings to you and your panelists. Kokobo Stephen says good morning. The 2025 budget is encourageable for me. It shows clearly that the NDC government is in for fantastic business, and my greetings to all members of the movement for change. Alasan Hamidan said the 2025 budget is a refreshing change, finally prioritizing citizens' well-being by abolishing burdensome taxes and increasing economic recovery allocations. After years of mismanagement under Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, this approach shows real commitment to reducing poverty and reviving the economy. President Mahama, Agu MPP, simplicity. Let's listen to the Don, and then I'll come back to Honorable Ataisa because he has to take leave of us at some point. They are doing the budget workshop for members of parliament, so we're grateful that he actually made it. Many members of parliament do decline usually when you get in touch with them. So the Don, let's listen to you first. Nia Boyana. Good morning.
SENA,
once again.
Good morning once again, and thanks for having me. I think my first or second time this year.
Yes, second time.
Second time this year, and let me greet my brother Solo.
I'm waiting for your contribution.
The green letter.
Oh, the green letter.
Oh, the white
doesn't come out anymore. No, it doesn't come out anymore.
Who has been troubling me with calls? And then my brother here, I think we are meeting for the first time at Ataisa, but I'm really impressed. For a first time MP has given a very good account of himself here, and I'm so impressed about his pronouncement on this show. The budget. Before I go on to the budget, I would want to do something. I think that we should not glorify incompetence, lack of knowledge, shortage of wisdom, and people who always want to take Ghanaians for granted. I think we shouldn't glorify them, and we shouldn't even entertain those discourse on our public space. I have, after this budget, I have heard a lot of commentary, and I was wondering if we were all living in the same country called Ghana. I'm just wondering. I've heard issues about the betting tax and all that. Well, in the amended Act of 1094, I did not see anywhere mention betting tax. The onus and the sole agent for collecting withholding taxes are the businesses themselves. So if there's supposed to be a withholding tax and the law clearly pronouncing a withholding of a certain amount or percentage from lottery winnings, I do not see how someone will say, I did not implement it. You need not implement it. The moment it showed up, the moment there is an imposition, the onus is on you, the business, to withhold the tax as a tax agent to the GRA. I would prefer the businesses saying that, well, we were supposed to withhold and we did not withhold. Or they withheld, but the GRA did not collect it. And it means that the businesses did not return the withholdings that they collected, because that money is not their money. And that comes with a penalty, with the MPR rate plus 125%. So all this issue about, oh, we enacted it but was not implemented. I mean, you are talking to, who do you think you are talking to? Meanwhile, I have handled issues, cases, where the GRA is going for those monies and imposing penalties, and you tell me it was not collected. I mean, we should have very honest discourse in our public space. It shouldn't be people speaking as if they know, they don't know. It's an insult to have paraded yourself through the Ministry of Finance and pretend you don't know or you are not aware of. Again, I had this young man called Gideon Boaku. I don't know if I should add doctor. And some of these institutions awarding doctorate must be re-examined again. Because this is a gentleman who was telling us that when the treasury bill rate, the 91-day treasury bill rate, is way below the inflation rate and the policy rate, investors on the market move to the currency trading side, which then push up inflation. This is what the argument is saying. Now, in March 2022, the policy rate was 17%. Inflation for March was 19%, 2022. The 91-day treasury bills, and to be specific, the first tender, 1788, was 12.72%, way below the 17% and way below the 19% inflation. I'm asking Gideon Boaku, did that return a negative? Did that put pressure on the trading, the exchange, or the forex market? And did that push up inflation? And was he not the economic advisor to the man who led the economic management team? What did he say in this country? This probably happened by chance in 2022. Let's come to 2024. December 2022, before we come to 2024. Policy rate, December 2022, 28%. Inflation, December 2022, 54.1%. Policy, 91-day treasury bills. The first issue in the month of December was 1827 at 36.73%. Again, lower and way lower than 54.1%. It wasn't a minus or plus 2. It wasn't a minus or plus 2 in terms of the policy rate of 28%. Where was Dr. Gideon Boaho? Now, in 2024, the 91-day treasury bill rate for the period of April, March and April was 26.4% and 25%. It was reduced from 26.4% to 25.68%. Were they controlling both price and quantity? Because then the margin was only 0.6% in March between the headline inflation of 25.8% and 25% in April, which only retained 0.68% positive. Yet, what happened? Our foreign exchange deposit shot up by 6.8% as a response to the decision they took. And then on the time deposit market, a total liquidation of 3.9 billion went out of it. So yes, he was right that when you control both pricing and the quantity, the effect of it is that people will jump onto the exchange market, the exchange trading market. Now, who was empowered here at this point? Who was empowered? Who was the advisor to the economic management team? It was you. Did you speak about it? No. Is the cure in this country for incompetence being sent to opposition? Is being sent to opposition the cure? All of a sudden, he knows this. He knows we are practicing the Dutch way. Why did he not say all this when he was in power and same issues were occurring under their watch? And then all of a sudden you come and waste our time with some of these jargons. There again, so disingenuous. He was talking about debt and that they perform better with debt. What was the credit rating of Ghana in 2016 as against the credit rating in 2024 or from 2022 to 2024 under their watch? Was it better? You see, that incompetent way of doing things will no longer be accepted. To say that, well, you've bunched both the domestic debt and the foreign debt together, right? You've mismanaged the exchange market and therefore you have a higher rate, and therefore when you use the higher rate to divide the CD, it drops in value, and then you come and tell me the nominal value and say that, well, we perform better. tell that to maybe a Kayayo or maybe somebody who is not well versed in such things. But when you sit on national televisions with microphones in front of you, you should do well to know that you are talking to the people of Ghana, the people who gave you the opportunity to serve in the capacity you served in government, and not talk down on us, because I find that very insulting. For you to say you performed better, yet your credit ratings were poor. Because why? The credit ratings are based on your ability to pay back. It is not rated against your GDP. They don't look at the nominals. They are looking at the fact that are you generating enough local currencies and foreign currencies to service your debt? No. Under your watch, our debt had to go through a rearrangement for us to be able to be viable as an economy and run. Yet, you are pitching yourself against somebody who did not need a DDEP to survive in 2016. Let's leave them. We have a nation to run, so that we come on to this budget itself. But for those boys who think that their classroom economics is enough to manage a country, I now understand the reason why the previous government was failing, and some of them should know their levels when we want to talk about finance and economics. This budget, well, it has been praised because it's a rollback for what we have seen for good 8 years. I quite remember 2017 when the NPP took over. They called certain taxes nuisance, and then they were in a hurry to take them off. We have seen a departure in this budget, where the rhetoric before this budget was to even take out the COVID 1%. I was so impressed because, if you remember, we've had conversation where I was against doing that. And it takes a good finance minister, for that matter, to say that, yes, we promised it, but hold on. Let's take a second look at it, because that is exactly what a prudent finance person should do. E-levy out, fine, that is fine, because that is going to, I have always kicked against e-levy. It was inflationary, it doesn't make logic. I even wish that we could go further and deal with the charges on transfer of money, because I have to buy this phone at the face value. If it is 100 cedis, I have to pay 100 cedis. I need not pay more than that. Paying more than that is certainly not good. And we have to look at the entire structure of this payment system we are using and how it is affecting inflation negatively. So yes, on that spot, I say thumbs up to the finance minister for holding on. The other thing is the cascading effect of, or I should say, the practicing sales tax and at the same time practicing indirect tax, which then will shoot up price by about 1.4% at every level. Now, if that is adjusted, you are looking at prices of goods and services coming down, which is also good, and so good for production as well. And therefore, I am looking forward for that will come true. I am not in support of reducing the 21%, which effectively is 21.9%, based on the cascading effect of the taxes. I would support the same 21%, but it should be allowed as an indirect tax in terms of the entire 21%, so that the manufacturer gets to recover the entire 21% and not the 6% as an additional cost, which really had no value to it because it affects the profit margins of also what they are selling. And therefore, that is going to help so much if it is done and bring some sanity and an ease of actually complying with that particular tax system. So that is also another good thing. The other issue is that I did not see a packing and front loading of a lot of programs as we saw in 2017 when free SHS was established, 1D, 1F, and 1P, 1 whatever.
One village, one dam.
One village, 1P, 1. Sorry, okay. Front loading all this, turning them into institutions on themselves, and I mean, with zero returns. At the end of it, we are looking at the returns on most of the investments we made during those periods. What I see is more into the productive sector, the agric and setups and all that. I will only caution that it needs to be managed well. Some of our programs we are introducing needs to be managed well. If it is monitored and it is not going well, have the audacity to cut it. That is what we call financial management. There again, there is a rollback from overall financing the budget deficit of 64, almost 70 billion and all that, to today a 56. I would say the 56 billion, for me, I would have wished it had dropped further to around 44. But of course, we know the situation we find ourselves in and all that. One other thing I want to take on, which I really did not agree with the finance minister, Honorable Atufosin, is that the issue of tax refund. I did not agree with him. Until I'm given further and better particulars, I will not be able to support his position. Now, for instance, we are told that some 26 billion has been collected in terms of the tax refund for the entire period of 8 years. I believe it should be more than that. We should be around 32, 33 billion that should have been collected if you are looking at the revenues. But as well, most of the times the tax revenue, the 6% if you compute, they don't really collect or put aside the 6% exact. So yes, we can accept that and move on with those figures. The issue here is the misapplication of almost 57%. Was it for budgetary purposes or non-budgetary purposes? I have set funds aside, right, to finance refunds, tax refunds. And I have not been told that there are accruals or liabilities on the tax refund front. I have not been told that. What it means is that we don't need the entire 6%, which is right, to bring the cap down to 4%. Yet, I'm also told in that same conversation that the 43% that were used for the purpose, the 57% were used for purposes that were not for tax refund. But I wasn't told whether it was for budgetary support as well. Now, if it is for budgetary support, what it meant is that instead of going to borrow, they found the need to pick on that account and use it, probably in terms of a timing difference, so that when the money comes in, it is replaced, whatever it is. I think we need to have better information on that issue. Now, if it is the case that it was used or plowed back for other budgetary allocations to support or finance other budgetary allocation, then really, if you reduce the cap, what it means that you are freeing that amount for those same purposes, to pay for budgetary stuff, right? Which for me is the same. It's just one being honest to say that I don't need so much in this account and turn around to go pick on it, as against one saying that I need so much when in fact he knows he doesn't need so much. So yes, for me it is more about transparency, an open book system where we are able to know that we don't need so much in terms of tax refund. But you see, my worry here again is that the tax refund and the bulk of it, I know, comes from the VAT refunds rather than the CIT, the direct taxes. You normally don't have refunds at the direct taxes side. Most of the refunds do come from the VAT side. Why? Because if I import for production, and what I do is that I export probably 80 to 90% of my my articles, right? What it means is that I will not be able to charge VAT. And I'm not supposed to be the one suffering the VAT. It is the consumer. And therefore, I will be in perpetual credit. And that is where a lot of it comes from. Now, in this instance, it is also an indication that at the non-traditional level, we are not exporting enough. Because the 6% tells me that at least 6% of what we are producing in this country, gross up, should be for export. And therefore, if we are not able to meet the entire 6%, I was looking out for a program in this budget that will propel export, because that is what we need so much. We need the foreign currencies so much going forward, especially 2017, 2027 and 2028, when we are, targeting about 36 billion in terms of amortization alone. So I wasn't so convinced about that tax refund issues. Again, with this budget, well, they say that it was simple. The reading was that it is loaded. It is not that simple. As it was presented, the presentation, yes, was a good presentation, but it's not a simple budget to say. Because, again, and let me use the same tax refund account we are talking about. We had tax revenue of about 186 billion, of which I think 151 billion is mainly tax revenue coming from tax. Now, what this tells me is that this is the base upon which you are projecting for 2025. Now, the moment you take 1% off, based on how you want to recognize VAT going forward. The moment you take the e-levy out, you will no longer have the 151 or 55 billion again. And therefore, your computation of what 4% is also going to be different. Unless we are being told that although the laws have not been passed, this was taken into account before we are seeing these figures we are seeing, then I am fine. But if we are looking and projecting from a historical of 155 billion in terms of tax revenues, then I must say that that base no longer exists for you to have the 4% and give out the 2% you want to give out for certain projects you want to undertake in terms of social interventions and all that. And there we must be careful. We must be careful because we are pushing revenues up by I think 21%. Yet the stimulation of this economy is not that much to guarantee us the 21%. If we fall short of that, what is going to be the picture? And that is what we should be looking at. Is it an issue of opening the tax net? And I still don't understand when this people say we should broaden the tax net. Almost everybody pays taxes in this country. The issue is that those who don't pay don't get to pay at all. Those who pay are always being hammered to pay, and that makes them call back and not invest more in this country, because now investing in Ghana in itself is a dangerous business to do. Why? Because the GRA will come after you. Bring just $3 million into this country and put it in business in this country. They will say you are a resident person, and if you are able to earn 10 million to bring to Ghana, then you have to pay tax, personal income tax on those monies. And these issues must be looked at again, because this is what is moving the investor community away from us. And when you look at the arbitrage between us, Ivory Coast, Togo, Burkina Faso, in the near future, already it is happening. More businesses are trooping to Ivory Coast rather than Ghana. And that is what we need to look at. I did not see much in this budget talking about the business climate and how we would make it convenient for investors to push in here. And that is what we need. We need that, and we need that so badly. This economy needs a booster that cannot be provided by government. It cannot be provided by our partners, bilateral, multilateral. It cannot be provided by them. We need to set a stage for businesses or investors to feel free to push in and do business from Ghana, so that we can get those benefits that comes with doing business in Ghana in terms of collecting more taxes, selling more in terms of export and all that. Again, we are dealing with a heightening inflation, although we claim it has come down. Over 23% inflation is not cool for us. The target is 11%, and again, it is a good target to have. We were still having 8% target when inflation was around 54.1%, which doesn't make sense. Today we are talking about 11% year-end target. when we are hovering around 23%. It is somebody coming to the party with a wash face, you know, and so that is commendable as well. Now, the issue here is that what key investment are we putting in agriculture? Because food inflation is what is pushing up. And it is being pushed up because of the reliance of imported food. And we need to urgently do something with the Ministry of Agric. I cannot doubt the competence of the minister, Honorable Eric Opoku. But there again, I was looking out for something very direct towards the Ministry of Agric to push up production. I did not really see that much. But in all this, it is a good start. It is a good start in the sense that you are taking up from a very messed up position, and therefore you should ride on cautiously. And I think it is a balance of meeting what we promise, what we met, and going forward with a prosperous mindset. And I think in putting all together is what we have had in this budget. The thing is not about the plan, it is about the implementation of the plan. So be rest assured, unlike what Solo and others were doing back then, even when it is wrong, they were supporting and shouting with me in these studios. And at the end of the day, they came to the realization that that was not the way to go. And they started criticizing their government. But they needed to step out to criticize their government. We will not step out. Solo, we will stay in. But where we believe that it is not right, we will say. Where we have disagreement, we will share our disagreement. And where we need to give a thumbs up, we will give thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me, like I said, Honorable Ataisa, so that conclude on this particular topic for me, we'll take a break so that you can take leave and be part of the workshop.
All right, so listening to my two brothers here gives me a sense of hope that together we can all make meaningful contributions towards building a secure future for our people. So I'll begin with the idea of foreigners or the IMF dictating to us, especially when it comes to the VAT reforms. I am not sure the IMF will be dictating to us, but as a country, we must always have a benchmark or the best practice. So it is not out of place for us to subject our reforms to best practices. If you were following the national economic reform, it is one of the outcomes of the dialogue that proposed the reform to the VAT regime. So all they are doing is to subject it to international benchmark practices or best practices. So it is not to suggest that we are always at the call of the IMF. Number two is also, like you indicated, we are under a program. And even though it was signed by the previous administration, because government is a continuum, it is expected that we also follow through till the end of the program. One thing that we must also commend the Minister of Education, especially when you look at the budget, there was this talk of introduction of the PTA system back, because I know that education is a shared responsibility. It is not always front-loaded by the government. It is also done by the parents in order to shape the quality of our case. If you remember, the previous administration, because of the collapse of the PTA system, even textbooks, people, they couldn't print textbooks for years. Yet they will give pass questions to students to just write and pass. And that's how come, if you follow the learning curve, you realize that at the first year in the university, attrition rate was very high for students who go to the university out of the free SHS policy. So I think it was a big challenge for the free SHS. And now giving a dedicated funding for the free SHS is also a good way to go, because you introduce a policy in September 2017, ran the program for, I think, 8 years without any policy, without any legislation, and without any funding source. So today it is funded by ABFA, tomorrow it's funded from oil revenue and all those things. So I think now uncapping and amending the Get Fund Act to make sure that we focus more funding towards the free SHS and people with disability is a good innovation, and we must comment. Now, my brother was saying he expected to see certain key indicators in the budget, but like I said earlier, this year budget has been done in a very composite manner, such that various direct interventions that you expect to see will be done by the sector ministers. And for example, this morning we'll be meeting a lot of ministries that will give us some broad idea. The broad ideas that was captured in the budget will now be drawn down to specifics for everybody to see. And once we are at the appropriation stage, you can now see clearly what commitments have been made into the various programs. We talked about the idea of, yes, I also listened to Gideon Boako, and I felt sad. But I expected so, because they are in a minority, and you don't expect them to just sit down like that. But to say that...
But he's a doctor.
Yes, but you know, this is our politics sometimes. So, in fact, they attributed the yield curve or the downward trajectory of the rate on return on Treasury bill, the 91-day Treasury bill, to fiscal discipline or fiscal consolidation that they achieved prior to leaving office. But if you look at even end of year Treasury bill rates, it was 29 point something. Now it's under 20. One thing that influences Treasury bill, first of all, apart from the idea of your policies, is also the trust. Signaling theory will tell you that the level of confidence people will have. If people perceive your government to be a very risky government, they will only accept giving you money at a higher rate. The government came with a lot of goodwill, and it is part of the reason why that drew down the Treasury bill rate on the yield curve. So it is not as a result of the MPP. Now, I support the call that we must do everything humanly possible to combat corruption, because one of the reasons why the NDC won with such margin was the fact that the previous government was engulfed in massive corruption. And if we are unable to fight corruption, I don't think we will have any justifiable excuse to give to the good people of this country. For example, in the history of this country, we should never see a president that will go and dig the world's most expensive swimming pool. It was unacceptable, and it is still unacceptable. And I think that once this budget is passed, one of the key things we must start investigating and start prosecution will be on the National Cathedral. The Bank of Ghana headquarters, from 88 million to about $261 million. It's unacceptable. You can't manage the poor taxpayer money like that. So I think NSS scandal, ghost names of almost about 80-something thousand. We losing about 50 million Ghana cedis annually to people who are non-existent. So these are some of the things that I think that President Mahama should expedite action when it comes to the fight against corruption. If you go to the northern region, land capture, almost all state lands was illegally acquired, or it was given to party foot soldiers. These are some of the things that the Ghanaian people abhor, and they thought that the MPP were not good managers of our country. So I think corruption should be tackled head on, and I have no doubt, if you look at the report that was submitted by the oral committee to the presidency, it indicated the level of seriousness Ghanaians attached to it. Look at even the response rate, how many people submitted suspected cases of corruption to the oral committee. So I think that there is that level of high expectation on us to deal with issues of corruption. Now, value for money, I expect that the president should order a value for money audit on key government projects that have been done and even paid for, and those ongoing. Because if you look at some of them, bloated costs of projects were rampant. And I think that for Ghanaian people to achieve the desired objectives that we set for ourselves, I think President Mahama should commission a value for money audit on very key essential government projects ongoing and those completed in the past. Now, the NPP always try to play with the minds of people. I think my brother explained that if you ask them in terms of debt accumulation, they run to converting our debt to dollars and forgetting that our functional currency is that of a cedi. And when you are going to pay your debt, you don't pay it by manufacturing the dollar here. It is a cedi that you convert in order to go and pay your debt. But for political mischief, they would rather use a higher exchange rate to divide their own and use that for cedi at our time to divide with our debt. So you see that their debt accumulation in terms of dollars will be lower. That of us will be higher. But logic speaking, you can't even convince any human being that a $120 billion versus $726 billion are equal. So that clever way of presenting our debt figures is always wrong, because Ghana has a functional currency of the Ghana cedi, and we must always project our debt in cedi, and it is done across the globe. Your functional currency is the one you use to present your fiscal position. There was this discussion of agric and specific interventions under the agric sector. I listened to a lot of them during the run-up to the election, and it was also captured in the Agriculture for Economic Transformation, where they have done budgetary allocation of 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. First of all, we intend to implement what we call the Feed Ghana program, through, and then the Vegetable Development program, and that of the Nkoko and Kitinkiti program. But not only that, we are establishing the farm service center at all farming districts, where you'll be given tractors, combine harvesters, fertilizers, and all those things, so that farmers can go and get it at reduced rate. For example, an acre of land now in Northern region is 200 Ghana cedis. When President Mahama's time, an acre was just going for 60 cedis. So we want to reverse the trend, so the cost of farming is relatively lower. So I think it's a way of ensuring greater food productivity and in that area. And bear in mind also that the objective of President Mahama is to promote an export-led economy and that of an import substitution economy. So our expectation is not just importation, or the business sector who are doing foreign biz. No, the concentration is also how do we ensure value for money, and how do we also ensure that there is value addition in our productivity. And to that end, that is why the Ministry of Trade has been realigned with that of agribusiness. So right from production at the agri sector, it is moved on to the trade area, and for what? For the purposes of export. For that reason, he is committed to establishing the Ghana Accelerated Export Authority, where he as a president will be the chairperson for that. The Office of the Government Machinery was a topic for the last 3 days as to why compensation for the Office of Government Machinery will jump from about 300 million Ghana cedis to 2.7 billion Ghana cedis. And I think before the start of the program, I saw the Minister of Government Communication explain that. And they were just mischievous, because after the budget presentation, we were given with a full budget. So the abridged version was what was read, but members of parliament were given the full copy of the budget. And in it, it came with other memoranda that indicated the various agencies that have been subsumed into the office of government machinery. For example, if you look at, we had an information ministry in the past. Now we don't have an information ministry. So where do you expect GBC workers to get payments from? We had national security before. Now we don't have. So where do you expect people from the National Signaling Bureau, National Intelligence Bureau, and the Research Department? Where do you expect the workers to fall under? So it is as a result of those measures and realignment of our ministries to achieve our commitment that we made to the Ghanaian people of having 16 ministers. That is why a lot of workers from those ministers that have been merged have been moved to the office of the president. So I don't think they were just being mischievous. Now, dealing with the issue of the tax refund account, I think, Senior, the idea, in my understanding, was that you use trend analysis to make forecasts. And over the last 8 years, if an accumulation of 29.11 billion Ghana cedis and only 12.5 billion was utilized in terms of tax refund, it will tell you even in the next 8 years what will happen. You use trend to make your future projections. And if you look at the minister, he provided further details by saying that when you look at the revenue measures that they have put in place and how much tax revenue we intend to get at the end of the year, we are expected to make a savings of about 3.8 billion Ghana cedis in tax refund, reducing it from 6% to 4%. We are expected to make 3.8 billion from the tax revenue projections that we have done, and that is enough to cover the betting tax of 10%, the withholding betting tax of 10%, and that of the e-levy. E-levy is expected this year to give us 1.9 billion or so, and then the betting tax is expected to get us 180 million. So these two combined is still less than the provisions made of 3.8 billion in the tax refund.
Additional 1.7 will be going to the social
intervention, some of the social intervention. So I think that's now one of the critical things that I expect the budget to tackle, and I'm sure from today we'll see the specific policies, is the exchange rate volatilities. Because in the business sector, one thing that cripples businesses is if you cannot plan as a business, where especially those that import. Today, you go and import at a rate of so and so, and the next minute you are going back to import, it goes up. So it makes even prices of goods and services even increase. So inflation, exchange rate influences even inflation of goods and services. And you don't be surprised why you saw that fuel prices were always on the run. And once fuel is increasing as an inelastic commodity, it has general impact on goods and services. So I was particularly happy this year that we have struggled so hard to establish the gold board that will serve will use our external sector to be backed by gold. So other countries have tried that has succeeded. But the opacity in the gold for oil program, that one was not too clear. That's why I think the level of success was not that much. But now we are trying to establish the gold board to serve as a buffer for our external sector. And then implementing the FX forward rating system. Because oftentimes, one of the drivers of the cost of living of our people was fuel and transport. My brother talked about transport. He didn't see any direct issue on transport. But why does transport price increase? It is in response of our fuel, our cost of fuel. Is that not it? Because the drivers will always say that they've increased fuel price, so they will respond to the fuel price increase by increasing their transport rate. Now the fuel price too, we don't refine a lot here. We import them. Now doing the FX forward rating system simply means that you give a window. Let's say for the next 3 months, this is what the effective exchange rate regime you are given for BDCs to go and what? Import crude. So there's that level of stability in their mind. So at every 3 months window, you can predict what the prices will be. But a lot of times under NPP, what used to happen is that if the Bank of Ghana is unable to get them all the rate, they go into the forex market at the private sector, the black market. So you know that is often higher. So if it is higher, they import at that rate, automatically you expect that price of fuel will increase. And then finally, let me talk about the 24-hour economy, because this budget, in my understanding, it seeks to achieve jobs for people, because the youth, Ghana is gradually becoming a youthful country, and if you look at the proportion of the population that is youth in nature, you realize that we are about 63% currently between between 18 and to 35. So it means that unemployment is a great concern. One of the reasons why the NPP lost the election also was because of unemployment. The concern was that people who had graduated for more than 5, 6, 7 years do not get jobs. So I think the benchmark for Ghanaians will be to guarantee some level of employment. So I expect that the amendment to the GIPC Act and the Labour Act should create avenues for more employment for the Ghanaian youth to contribute. Because the campaign we did was to create jobs using the 3-shift system. I'm not sure we'll have any justification when people still have difficulties in finding jobs. So on that note, I want to say once again that yes, you may not have seen the specific sector in the estimates as to how much has been allocated, but the sector ministers, once they start the presentation, it will be made known to the Ghanaian people.
Okay.
Finally, to land on the Agenda 111, I think that it was one of the reckless government policies ever. You do a government project at that large scale without any dedicated source of funding. Like I was telling you before the show, in my constituency, such contracts were awarded to parliamentary candidates and all those things, with that capacity to execute such projects. Okay. So I think that it should never happen again. And these are some of the audits that I want President Mahama to do. And if you look at the road sector, and it's engulfed in debt, but most of these debt have been inflated debt and contracts that have not been executed, yet certificates have been prepared for payments. So I think the roads minister is in the process of validating all the road sector debt, because this year alone, apart from the general road sector debt of 195 billion Ghana cedis, road fund alone is expected to pay about 5.7 billion Ghana cedis. Okay. And if you have these fiscal rigidities, how do you even execute new roads when Ghana will sell every constituency? In fact, so far, this is our 2nd to 3rd month, the minister that has answered most questions in the House is the roads minister. Every constituency still has roads challenges. Yet they claim they had done about 11,000 new roads or 13,000 new roads. Where are they? Yet every constituency is crying of roads. So I think that a proper value for money audit and then site visitations of the projects that have been executed according to the previous government contractors would be in the right way. And I want to thank you once again for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's refreshing at this time to hear you, because he comes in at a time when Honorable Jinapo is energy minister. Isaac Andongo is chairman of the finance committee. Yes. There's Honorable Keslatofo, who is the finance minister. So he is the one everybody will be scrutinizing henceforth. Yes. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of the finance front for the National Democratic Congress. And it's refreshing to hear your voice. And I guess we'll see you a lot more. Honorable Ataisa is member of Parliament for Sanyarugo. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
He's the Redeemer.
Right Honorable Speaker, it is what it is. The state of our economy is troubling, but we will fix it. Mr. Speaker, touch wood, we will fix it. But Mr. Speaker, it will require some sacrifices, truthfulness, transparency, and discipline. We will take strong measures to confront the situation head on. Mr. Speaker, the sacrifice must come from all stakeholders, beginning with the government. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President appreciate this, and has led the charge by significantly downsizing his government from the Elephant 88 to the Umbrella 60. Mr. Speaker, he has also reduced the number of his government ministries from the Elephant 30 to the Umbrella 23. Mr. Speaker, as part of the contribution to the resetting agenda, organized labor has followed suit by working with government and employers association to agree on a modest 10% increase in base pay and minimum wage for the year 2025. Right Honorable Speaker, on behalf of His Excellency the President, I would like to express my profound gratitude to organized labor and employers.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered.
Well, thank you. Thank you for staying tuned to the Mother World Talk Shows, Alhaji&Alhaji, on all our affiliate radio stations. We are live on Pan-African Television. We are live on Radio Gold. Of course, we are live on social media, Pan-African Television on YouTube, Pan-African Television on Facebook. We'll move on to another discussion. ECOWAS cracks, is Mahama the glue, the sub-regionese? That's the next discussion we're having. But just a few comments on the earlier discussion. This is Papa BCU. Well, says I said on business line. Okay, I don't know whether you should I very interesting comment anyway. Koblavio Pokwasi Bengazi joins us, says MPP MPs are not saying anything good about the budget because they always want the downfall of President John Mahama's government. But we have trust in the budget that it will have the positive effect on the economy and that things will change for better. With this evil mentality, MPP will stay in opposition for a very long time. Abasa Mogobo in Offenso was also joining us, says, Sena, this is the best budget ever. It has relieved all the burden on Ghanaians. You can even see that the whole country is in good mood. Mama has started very well. We pray that it continues like that. Never again should we vote for a wicked government like Okufuado Bawumia government. Some more. Alhaji Hamza in Pig Farm says, good morning. I am happy to see that the budget provided hope for the youth of this country. It is also a business-friendly budget for our businessmen and women. I am also happy to see that Get Fund has been uncapped to make more monies accessible for the development infrastructure for our schools. The budget has also provided a dedicated funds for our free SHS, and I'm also happy. My brother, monies has also been made available for the teachers and nursing trainees. And my brother, the first time in the history of this country, our assemblymen are going to be paid. God bless President Mahama. He has promised and he has fulfilled his promises. There's President Koforido who says, since the MPP is saying that they didn't implement the betting tax, the NC government led by President Mahama will investigate where the 51 million Ghana cedis and 151 million the GRA reported in 2023 and 2024 respectively went to, and come out with the truth. John Mahama cares and will deliver the Ghana we want to the good people of Ghana. The budget is the best since 1993. Budget full of goodies. Free sanitary pad is back. The future is pregnant. President Kofoidu sent that one. Had him Pig Farm says, honestly, MPP will never change. Anytime they come to power, Mother Ghana goes back 20 years. Nanado was more interested in becoming a president than accepting the responsibility of a president. Nanado has troubled Ghanaians so much that even chiefs are afraid to sit down and greet. Indeed, Nanado is the only president who has disappointed the past, disappointed the future, disappointed the present. Inshallah, Mother Ghana will work again under the leadership of His Excellency, the humble and hardworking gentleman called John Mahama. So those are some of the comments, except this one that was sent to our WhatsApp line by the Venerable Dr. Nyahu Tamaklo. Quite a script. He says, where are the NDC communicators? The lack of strong and effective communication strategy has placed the NDC at a significant disadvantage. This weakness has allowed the minority, despite their numerous infractions against the nation, to dominate public discourse, openly challenge critical national issues, and manipulate narratives to their advantage. The NPP, despite its record of financial mismanagement and other misdeeds, continues to assert their public image simply because they articulate their arguments effectively. The ability to control the narrative has made their wrongdoings less noticeable, while the NDC's weak communication efforts have left them struggling to expose these issues. If the NDC does not take urgent steps to revamp and radicalize its communication machinery both in Parliament and in larger political space, it risks losing power to prosecute these perpetrators right before its eyes. The party must recognize that in politics, perception is key, and without a compelling and strategic communication approach, they will continue to lag behind. One communicator who deserves commendation is Solomon Oso. His recent media engagements have demonstrated a commitment to Ghana rather than any political party. The NDC would do well to learn from his approach. In summary, the NDC must, 1, strengthen its communication strategies to effectively engage in national narratives. 2, revive its communication machinery to counter misinformation and set the agenda. 3, ensure that the NPP's financial infractions and governance failures are properly exposed. If these steps are not taken, power will slip through their hands without them even realizing. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo sent that. Commendation for Mr. Solomon also, who is the big star on the show today. Anyway, let's move on to the matter of the sub-regions. It's one of the issues you are very much interested in.
We have been telling people that this sub-region issue is in the interest of the Alliance for Sahel State to reconsider their decisions and rejoin the ECOWAS. I mean, we have to face it. The way and manner ECOWAS as a body treated them, especially Niger and Burkina, wasn't the best. That at a point we were discussing whether or not ECOWAS should go and forcibly invade Niger. Was it Niger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was there when the legitimate president was overthrown.
Yeah.
I have my own issues with the military leaders who have taken over. Because if a whole country goes to the polls to elect a president, you must use legitimate means to get a president out. A soldier cannot just get up and say, I have removed anybody. No matter the praises you heap on any military leader, I am not for it. If the military leader is so mindful that he wants to lead a country, he can take off the military attire, go and form a political party, or join a political party, go around the entire country, campaign with a manifesto, win election, and lead a country. And so, from that, or to that extent, I have never supported the Alliance for Sahel regions, the 3 leaders, and it has the potential of even encouraging more military leaders to join the fray. Can you imagine Ghanaians going to the polls to elect President John Mahama, and a military man sitting somewhere thinks that he's smarter than everybody? Tomorrow gets up, take a gun and say, I have taken over. Would I agree? Then it will be free for all. You understand? So from that angle, I do not support it. But you see, Africa is fighting to be united. Our only means of survival or development is to unite. Trade amongst ourselves. We are talking about a continent that has 3 trillion value if we are to trade amongst ourselves. Ghana cannot make any headway if we go solo on any negotiation table. Neither would Nigeria succeed, neither would South Africa succeed. But when we go as a bloc, we are talking about close to 1.2 billion human beings. Do you know what it means to have 1.2 billion market? That is a lot. That means we don't need the rest of the world if we were doing business amongst ourselves. Now you narrow it to West Africa. You are talking about a population of close to 600 million people living here. And so we need ourselves. This is not the time to have breakaway factions. This is a time to rather unite, do things together, look at our common interests. And interestingly, Niger, Burkina, Mali were founding members of the ECOWAS. You get my point. And that is why the likes of Tinubu and President Akufo-Addo do not deserve our attention and time. You are elders. Interestingly, all of you are older than these young ones that you should have used that experience You have your former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, go to meet a younger Secretary of State, a mere Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. And what does he do? He goes to gossip about a neighboring country. That singular act had the potential of causing a serious problem between Ghana and Burkina. You know, at a point, our ambassador was even called to the presidency to explain what was happening. It took the national security minister then to go and intervene because our president has spoken loosely, had acted loosely. When we meet Europeans, when we meet Americans, then all the brains go away. We talk, we begin to parrot like there is no tomorrow. That has been our being. So if President Mahama comes and realizes that, look, the unity of the sub-region is paramount, I'll be the last person, because if you go into our great transformation plan, it is one of the key pillars that we believe can lead to economic growth. Remember, we have an Africa continental free trade. With Burkina going out of it, or going out of ECOWAS, how would we trade amongst ourselves as Africans? So his attempt must be viewed and must be supported by the entire sub-region so that he can bring them back on track. But in doing so, those leaders must also understand that they must make the effort of returning the country to constitutional rule. What they are doing in perpetuating, I see it as they want to go and form their own cliche somewhere so that nobody will come and touch them. No, they must be told to return to constitutional rule. If you want to lead a country, remove the military attack, go and contest election. Because if you look at the reasons why they came, yes, I've seen a lot of people heap praises on Captain Traore because of his effort to industrialize the country and revolutionize things. Yes, he's doing well, but the truth of the matter is also that the issue for which he came, the reason that why he came, terrorism, has not been dealt with. As we speak, the Al-Qaeda, what's the other name? These jihadist groups, they are still ISIS and so on and so forth. They are still occupying a substantial portion of Burkina. As for Mali, it's worse. The last time I heard Abdurrahman, the Nigerian leader, say he's going back to the IMF. If you go back to the IMF, you are claiming France is your #1 enemy. France is an ally of the United States of America by virtue of NATO. So if you go back to the IMF is the baby of the United States of America and UK. It is their own policy. They have put it there. Make no mistake. If you are going to look for an IMF loan and the US says they are not giving it to you, they are not giving it to you. At the time our policy or extended credit facility was approved, in terms of all the indicators, we didn't deserve to get anything. But because the US government supported that, and that is how you can have our president go and meet that young secretary, former president, meet that young secretary and gossip. We do things, we are bootlicking. We bootlick them and show everything, small coins, they come to our aid. If you are Niger and you are joining the IMF, what it means is that you are submitting yourself back to the very France that you say you don't want to see them. And would you have gone or would you have come? So yes, President Mahama must engage them, and after engaging them, as part of his engagement, he must also appeal to their conscience that they give the roadmap. The leader in Mali, you gave the roadmap that by 2022, you'll be holding an election. When it was getting to that, then you came back and said, no, the country is not stable. You can't do it. To the extent that the prime minister in that country doesn't even know what is happening today. When you do that, what you are telling me is that it's not about the welfare of the country. It's about your personal parochial interest. So I would encourage the president to continue, but in so doing, they say if you are advising the cat, you must also advise the fish, so that we can work together. That is what I will say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A few more comments. I'm going to YouTube now. This one, Solomon Arthur says, good morning, SENA and your panelists. What is His Excellency JDM government going to do about all the people whose actions and inactions have plunged our economy into the abyss? Eunice Krong has a couple of two comments. Please, about the Ghanaian budget, stop going to the IMF and do what Ibrahim Traore is doing. Use more simple methods, such as common sense in solving the issues, not the bukulong from the West. It says, please, Ghanaian leaders, why are you always relying on the IMF? I feel so sad when I hear IMF, World Bank, and so on and so forth. We are always retrogressing. Stop using them. Don't trust them. Bright says, SENA, if NSA is so rich, why can't they increase the allowances of the service personnel? The people involved must be brought to book. He was watching us from the USA. Kraken CYB says, SENA, why is this man talking? How many of the things he wants to see in Ghana he wants, did he want when the MPP was in power? Is he aligned with the MPP? There's Lord Rafu is also joining us, says, watching from South Africa. Because the MPP went to IMF to borrow 3 billion, while the same MPP was busy allegedly stealing over 21 billion from the same country, borrowing from the IMF. Nana says, the MPP stop paying our debts. Seri Shaibu, good morning, Sena. People have stolen heavy monies in the past administration. The current government can boost the economy more if they can rapidly collect those monies back. There's Annie Donani, who says, okay, only a good morning. There's Flynn Sechi, who says, when will Gota and Abosokan spare parts dealers come together and help build factories to produce what they are importing into Ghana? Charity begins at home. Today, India, China, even North Africans. You didn't continue. Bernard Semen, who thinks, believes that you are the new Mr. Pras Solomon. There's Jake Nasamakese. Jake, forget about these MPP people and whatever they say in support of their members that have been accused of looting the state. They themselves know they are even more apart from Ken, Cecilia Dapai, and NSA boss. These are wicked and selfish people we need not to live with. Almost every person in the party went away with something that belongs to Ghanaians. Nobody should speak in support of them, especially that family of Akufo-Addo. We live with them, and we know the wealth these people amass for themselves within the short period they have been in power. Okay. It says, this one I wish to thank Dr. Jawonya for his excellent and fatherly advice about communication to the NDC, and also the panelists for their demonstration of intelligent arguments. There's NS Everlove Kwashi Dansuman, who says the former finance minister Amin Adam is being economical with the truth. He and his science keep prevaricating with their own economic data and statistics and postulating needless ideas as if he was living in Jupiter or Plato, when his predecessor Ken Ofori-Atta was saddling the ordinary Ghanaian people with these draconian taxes like e-levy, emissions tax, betting tax. MPP leadership have no moral turpitude to criticize the current finance minister for abrogating these dollar taxes. Thank you very much. Emmanuel Ablekuma says, Solomon, why are you surprised to see Nanado court doing Kokonsa? Is it not the attribute of the MPP doing Kokonsa to the CIA for the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the founder of Ghana? Thank you. There's this one. Good morning. I do not agree of taking those soldiers because they are doing well than those so-called elected presidents in Africa. The ECOWAS are not capable of taking good care of their citizens. Someone disagreeing? Of course, this one is a good morning. Please, Mr. President, you promised rural teachers allowance, but we didn't hear it from the budget. That's a reminder to the president. This one says, Sena, my name is Fokujo from Kaji near Kata. Please tell Osolo that I'm waiting for the day he will announce his membership with the NDC. Hey. It will be a good material in
What
NDC.
is it?
Beg him for me.
Oh, this do that.
Dr. Amino, former finance minister.
We are bringing a political party.
He's one person
I
had a very great respect for, but his recent press conference made me drop the total respect I had for him. Some friends of mine hold the same view about him. Afojimaki has poisoned his mind. Micro Minority Group came to the Parliament House to sleep. What good can they see good about the budget presentation? I'm trying as much to see if I can, but I'll try and see if I can do some more before the show concludes. The Don was, you're talking about, and you see the interesting thing is that there's still this debate over the betting tax. If you go, I think it's in the Income Tax Act. Yes. You see withholding tax on lottery winnings. So I don't know what the debate is about.
No, but there is betting tax. If there wasn't any betting tax, what
in
was
fact, betting is defined under lottery.
Yes.
Yes. So that's I don't know what it is about.
No, I mean, Anta got it. It was deliberate, and he has rather destroyed his integrity. You see, your first comment after budget, and everyone says you have lied. So who is going to take your subsequent submission seriously? So he is finished. He's gone.
No wonder at the next press conference they had to bring
Kojo Okonkoma. The least said about him, the better. Why are they doing these things to themselves? If I were the MPP, the people who are now communicating, they will be at backbenches. Kojo Okonkoma, you were the Minister of Works and Housing. Can he show me just one monumental thing he did at that ministry? Information, one monumental thing, and that person is communicating to you today, and he thinks that people are taking him serious. No one will take you serious. It's a party that lacks direction now. You know that those that are leading the communication, the best they could do is to be remaining quiet.
Well, but like Dr. Nyaonya Tamaklo would say, we in NDC should also up our game. We allowed them to lead the rhetorics just after the budget, only to come and respond. That is not good enough. The budget must be sold, and must be sold well, properly. And I mean, before Atu finished, we should have flooded almost everywhere with explanations or very simple language what some of the things he has said meant, you know. But if you leave that for them to capitalize on, and small boys come and sit there and talk just English without knowing, no substance, that is what you would have. That is what we will have. We also need to up our game. Yeah. Well, I think this issue has been a thorny issue for the past few years, and we need to bring a resolution to it. What is the benefits if we have ECOWAS, right? And we can work together. And then we don't have ECOWAS, but we can have good neighbors, understand each other, and work together. We should think of it, because for me, 50 years of ECOWAS, what can we show for it? No military force to boast about and to defend the region or the various states. Again, economically, we have not done so well in terms of dependency on each other. The three together contribute about 7% to the GDP of ECOWAS, right? I mean, in terms of trade, they are doing around 10%. And so, yes, it may not be significant, but they are quite important. We have, I think, 156 billion power projects, the North Cape power projects and all that, which includes all of them. How is that situated now with all the issues that we are having? Then we should look at the other side, where the risk we all face in terms of small arms moving around these regions and finding their ways in here, and the porous borders that we have. If I am not in good terms with you, I could just allow those operators who are selling arms across borders to have their free way to push ammunition into other countries and cause problems and commotions there. So yes, We can say, well, economically you are not too strong, you can have your way, but then the implications are quite severe, and that we should be able to bring all of them together. It is their decision to decide where they stand, but it is also proper for us to push closer to them and have good neighbors, because most of them, or Burkina for instance, we share borders with, and therefore we must necessarily have a good neighboring relationship with the people of Burkina Faso, and in fact all the borders that the countries that surrounds us. Going forward, the attempts to probably bring them together, I think it should be attempt to rather collaborate closely with them. Well, we have seen revolutionaries and all those people in this African continent. They all ended up with the IMF again, right? For me, yes, you may think you are doing the right thing today, but how consistent can you be? How can you hold it up? Gradually, you will move into a constitutional rule, and you would have parliament and all that. The things will be softened down, and then before you realize where you don't want to be, you are there. What we need to understand is that the entire West Africa is one block of an economy, and rather we should work closely to remove some of the, or most of the trade barriers that we have. And once we have done that, although we have a president for Ghana, we have a president for Burkina Faso, a president for Mali and Niger, we would have worked as one state. And in there, we are stronger. For me, it was a rush to have ECOWAS when you do not have an economic alliance and treaty that's kind of determine trade across all these nations. You are not looking at the issue of a common currency playing within these areas, but you go and form the apex body and now wants to drive it down. It will be difficult. We should have rather moved the opposite end from the bottom up, and that would have worked for us. Probably it is an opportunity for us to look at that again, because although Senegal is not in that same category, if you look at the actions of the Senegalese government today, it's almost like what is happening in these other countries, where they are taking on and they are, taking very serious decisions about how the economy is run and all that. So there is some awakening spirit within the African continent. We need not kill it. We need to redirect it well, so that we can have an immense benefit from what is happening. We cannot dictate to Burkina Faso. I do not want to dictate whether they should go into constitutional rule or what. The people of Burkina Faso themselves will call for it when the time is due. If they feel this is what is good for them, it is them and their country, right? What we need to concentrate on is how we will firm up our trade and economic issues with these countries and make sure that there is no blockade in what we do with them. They come down here and use our ports. As we speak, a lot of the businesses that used to be at the port, that Gapoa was so much benefiting from, has been moved to Ivory Coast because of the posturing of certain persons in government, right? And it is good if it is back. It would have helped our ports because it is dry now. So there are a lot of implications in the handling of this, and I will comment. I'll really commend the president for going close to them and trying to build a friendship first. And that is what I see, that he wants to build a friendship where you can pick a phone and you can call on these guys, and they can also feel free to call on you to know that these are good neighbors and we can talk. And that's the starting point, and that is a good point. The critical thing President Mahama did, which I applaud so much, is to appoint an envoy for the Sahelian region. And that is so strategic. You know, it sends a signal. The appointment alone sends a signal to those in the Sahelian region to say that, look, we want to deal with you. We don't care what is happening, where you find yourself today. We have an envoy that you can talk to, a go-to person, and that go-to person can make things happen because of his stature in my government. And that's in diplomatic circles was a very smart move to do. And I think that is what has softened the atmosphere a bit for them to be talking and to each other. And I think it is the starting point. But the point should not be so much about joining ECOWAS back, because ECOWAS for 50 years has been useless. I don't know what it will do. We fail the people of Liberia. In many instances, we have failed in terms of supporting each other militarily and all that. What I think we should do now is to go for the most needful things. How do we break down the trade barriers? How do we get ourselves to do more business? How do we have a common fate in terms of negotiating with our trading partners outside the ECOWAS bloc? And for me, if these agreements starts coming up, if Ghana can have an agreement that, look, at all times in the negotiations of maybe gold, we are going with a single team. If we can do same with Ivory Coast, that anytime there is a negotiation, we have a treaty, an agreement between us, we will go with a common team and not a separate team from Ivory Coast and a separate team from Ghana. Let's start building those corporations, and I think in time we will have the utmost benefit. And I think the way things are being handled now is quite impressive. We can continue and do that, hoping that in the near future we will have a better cooperation, advance trade, and then be a watchdog for each other in terms of our security issues, then rather concentrate on expelling this jihadis and all the issues we find ourselves with in the Sahelian areas. That has the propensity of dropping down to the coastal line. Okay. And therefore we must applaud President Mahama for the steps he took.
And he called it a good neighborliness store. That's how we conclude the show for today. But before we go, there's a comment coming from Ogochukwu Nweke, who says, great discussion this morning. Alexander Pope, the English poet, once said that for forms of government, let fools contest. What is administered best is best. Should we, as Africans, be talking about constitutional rule or democracy, or paying attention to the form of government or governance that serves us best? The British and Americans created a way of governance consistent with their reality, constitutional monarchy and federalism respectively. Why can't we have ours? Well, thank you very much for that comment. And on that note, we'll conclude the show for today. A few things. One, I want to remind you, and this is from Dr. Percy's family. They've indicated, I told you last time on the show, that they've indicated that on the 27th of March, that's a Thursday, they will hold his final funeral rites. Thursday, 27th of March, 2025, at the Lashibi Funeral Homes, Lashibi. Pre-burial will be 7 a.m. Burial service and funeral rites will start from 9 a.m., conclude at 3 p.m. Interment will be private. So just come and be part of the burial service and funeral rites. That's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Lashibi Funeral Home. So on the 27th of March 2025. Attire is black. So our friends and sympathizers are cordially invited. When it comes to Dr. Percy, everybody that watches Alhaji&Alhaji is a friend and sympathizer of Dr. David Percy, who has been a consistent voice on the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji&Alhaji, for many years. Let me also extend my condolences to the family of Mrs. Mercy Ekia Tetekwashi, mother of Apostle Tetekwashi, who heads the Divine Signature Outreach Ministries. So they are holding a final funeral rites for her today at the Divine Signature Outreach Ministry of the Russia Road, Dansuma Road, 300 meters from the Flamingo traffic. But the final funeral rites will actually happen at Tony Park opposite the Most Holy Heart School, Dansuman, at 8 a.m. So condolences to the family. And finally, today I believe is the birthday of Charles McCarthy. Happy birthday to you, Charles. And of course, yes, today is the birthday of Charles. Happy birthday to you. And thank you very much for making time to join the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji&Alhaji, today. We are very grateful to the Honorable Member of Parliament for Senyarugo for joining us at Taisa. And also, it was a pleasure hosting Solomon Owusu, who is a member of the Movement for Change. The appeals for him to move to the NDC continue. I don't know why for one. Yes, yes. What the movement still on?
Yeah, the
or you are converting into a
party. You know, just a movement. Yeah, we will depose NDC from power come 2028.
Oh, okay.
So don't worry about it.
I see.
Yes,
I see. And Solomon also of the Movement for Change. Always
give him position.
You give him a position.
Yeah.
But between you and the gentleman, what's his name? The number one guy.
Who's your
the flag bearer, the other flag bearer. The young man.
Bediako.
Cheddar.
I didn't take notice, but which of you had more votes?
So your time is up.
His name is the Don.
What?
His problem is the Don. He's me, and he's a financial analyst. Member of the NDC. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show. I had Theophilus in my ears, and of course, my producers, led by Tijani Badamasi. There's Latifa Erabna, TT, who is always in charge of sound. I had Adam. A big thank you to all of you. That's the crew behind the Alhaji&Alhaji show. We are back. And a big thank you to our affiliate stations across the country. Make a date with us same time next week, Saturday.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored.